Inside the Birds is back. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Birds Pregame Live here at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook on Delaware Ave, where Philly loves a winner. I'm Jeff Mosher from Inside the Birds podcast, alongside my Inside the Birds co-host. That's Adam Kaplan. Joining us, as always, we've got a tape breakdown czar. His name is Greg Cosell. What's going on, Greg?
How's it going?
I'm good. Yourself?
I think I'm all right.
Yeah?
I think so far,
well, by the end
good.
of the show, we'll try to change that.
So far, so good. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. All right. That man who you thought played for the Eagles has got his Michigan gear on today. He did play for the Eagles as well. He is former Michigan wide receiver Jason Avant, a proud alumni today, I imagine.
I'm excited.
It's 2 straight weeks now.
Yeah, college football playoff is good.
Maize and blue.
Yeah, we're ready.
All right, well, hail to the victors. As a Penn State guy, it takes me a lot to say that.
Oh, yeah.
So congratulations to you and go Big Ten. We got a big game here. We are all here at Jack's Bar and Grill as the Birds trek back up the New Jersey Turnpike to the same stadium they were in last week. And what a weird scheduling quirk that is, because they're playing a different team. They're playing the New York Football Jets. Look, the Eagles hope that they left behind all the sloppy turnovers that plagued them last week in a loss to the Giants, a 13-7 loss. They had their 2-game winning streak snapped. They're now 5-7. Missed an opportunity to get to 500, but they are playing the Jets, Jets, who themselves snapped a 3-game losing streak. They did win last week. They beat the Texans 21-14. They are 3-8, which sounds terrible, but that's actually one more win than they had all of last year. Mm-hmm. So some improvement there. And cue the Jim Mora sound, because I know it makes people weird, but the playoffs are still within reach for the Philadelphia Eagles as they enter this week's action, just a half game out. Playoffs! Yeah. So a lot to talk about. Again, we're here at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook. Come down, catch the games with us. We got a lot of big screen TVs. You got great food. You got great drinks. You have a great atmosphere here at Rivers. Plus, Adam and I are going to be here for a watch party. We'll be giving away some Eagles memorabilia. We'll be doing some game recap, some game preview. We'll be interacting with fans. It's going to be a great time. It's our watch party. It'll start around kickoff, so make sure you come on down to Rivers and see us, join us, have some fun. If you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like or a share. Let everybody know, whatever platform you're watching on, give us a share, a like. It really helps us, and we really appreciate it. Also, leave a comment in the YouTube chat box, and we will try to get to it and answer some questions throughout the duration of the show. Fellas, we have breaking news, and it's very big news, and it pertains to what's going to happen today in the game. As you guys know, and people watching at home, Jalen Hurts had an injured ankle last week, and this week it is my understanding that he took very, very few reps at practice. They had a walkthrough on Wednesday. He did a little handful there, but as the week went on, fewer reps to the point where there were some practices where there were no reps. Players are expecting today, many players, that Gardner Minshew will get the start in place of Jalen Hurts. We know that. The Eagles are saying it's a game-time decision. They are going to go through with it. They're going to have Jalen on the field and working out. But as I throw it to you guys real quick, and before I get to Adam, one thing I've heard on Jalen is that it's not just an ankle. He's had some pain and discomfort in the heel area as well. So his ability to plant and drive is under question. So it's not just about the running, but it's also about the throwing for Jalen Hurts. So Adam, if Gardner Minshew starts today, give us a taste of what you remember about the scouting of Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, so this is from a Jaguar source. This is based on the time that he started a bunch of games. Very good processor of information, brings a lot of energy to the team in the huddle. Guys rally around him. Not going to wow anyone with arm strength. Throws with a good sense of time, a good leadership, good communicator, good with coaches interaction. But the knock on him was, once they started losing a bunch of games, he started pressing and doing things outside of structure, and then he started turning the ball over. But there was a time where he was getting on a roll here, and remember now, Dave Caldwell, the Eagles personnel executive, who's sort of a consultant, he was the guy who drafted him 2 years ago.
Right.
So obviously he's got good insight, and I'm sure he had some input on the acquisition. And the other thing on Minshew is I'm told 3 teams were in it. It wasn't just the Eagles. There was actually 2 other teams to acquire him. So when you look at it, here's a guy who started some games. He's got good tapes out there, some not so good. I know Greg's got his scouting report, which we love to hear. But barring a shock, he'll be behind center today.
All right, I'm going to throw it to you guys for a second on some Gardner Minshew, but I want to just refresh everybody's memory about how this all came to be about. Some background. The Eagles gave up, as Adam was talking about, a 6th-round pick to the Jags to get Minshew. This is his 3rd year, so he has 1 year left, plus if they ever wanted to franchise. But either way, he's got at least this year and next year left under contract. He had a lot of success as a rookie in Jacksonville. Everybody remembers the mustache, and then he comes in for Nick Foles, who got hurt, threw for over 250 yards. It became Minshew Mania. We remember that. He started 8 games in place of Foles that year, 4-4, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 5 passer ratings over 95, 3 over 100, and then he started the final 4 games of that year also. They went 2-2, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick, and in total he had 21 touchdowns, 6 picks, and a 91.2 passer rating. And then last year he started 8 games, 66% completion percentage, 16 touchdowns to 5 picks with a 95.9 passer rating. But the Jags went 1-7 in that stretch, and of course they had the number 1 pick and took Trevor Lawrence. So Greg, those are some pretty impressive numbers for a guy who was a 6th-round pick, who was kind of forced into the situation as opposed to being groomed into it. So in those 2 years with Jacksonville, what stood out from the tape?
Well, I think when he's at his best, he clearly plays with a refined sense of timing and rhythm. That's what he is, because he's not a big-armed guy. I think that he's a classic case of a quarterback, and you try to do this with all quarterbacks, but he's a classic case of a quarterback that needs the offense to present him with the throws. He's not going to drive the ball between people. He's not a deep out thrower. Deep balls are not arm strength throws. You can throw a fade, you can throw a post. They're not arm strength throws. So when he's at his best, there's a sense of refinement to his game. Some of the issues he faced when he struggled a bit, because he got sacked a lot last year, is he does at times, if it's not clean, get stuck in the pocket. And while he's not immobile, he's kind of an awkward mover. He's not what you'd call mobile, although he could make some runs today and people will say, oh, he moves pretty well. He's an odd guy in the sense that he has better movement outside the pocket than inside the pocket. Inside the pocket, his feet are slower. Outside the pocket, he can make a run here and there. So he's a piece of an offense. We'll talk about this more as we go along, I'm sure.
Right.
But it will obviously be a totally different sections of the playbook being used today than with Jalen Hurts.
Jay, what would you expect, beyond the obvious, we know we're not going to see zone reads and design quarterback runs, but what would you expect from overall from the offense with a quarterback like Minshew pulling the trigger today?
They're going to have to figure out a way to manufacture passing. And I know we want to rely on the run game, but I think the big part of the run game is the Jalen Hurts element. When you take that element away, you have to throw the ball a little bit more, and you have a guy that's more traditional. And I wouldn't be surprised if the receivers, have a really good day today, just because the guy can complete some timing throws. Maybe they can use a little bit more motion and things of that nature because he's had NFL experience and has some success. So I'm looking forward to seeing the receivers play better overall today because they have a more traditional pass.
Given what you just said, is today somewhat become a little bit more of a referendum on Nick Sirianni's offense now that we are seeing a different quarterback and maybe someone who's a little bit more of a polished passer?
Well, today will be that day. Like I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what we get from Coach Sirianni, to see if his offense can be more of that traditional style that we've seen in Indianapolis. We'll see. And I definitely know they'll be under center more today.
They will for sure, and I think the
one thing
play-action pass game will be, I would think, a big factor today, because that allows a quarterback to get into a rhythm, and that's what Minshew is.
Right.
Because I remember I brought my scouting report from when I did him coming out of Washington State, and I said, shorter than desired, timing and rhythm, shotgun passer, which of course he was in the air raid, but he'll be under center more today, who threw with good touch and pace and consistent ball placement. Excellent ball position on his drop and set with a quick, compact delivery. Much more of a finesse touch thrower than a drive thrower. Decisive reading coverage and eliminating and isolating within the context of his college offense. But that's the air raid. That presents things very cleanly.
What will the narrative be if guys like Quez, forget about the quarterback situation. That's obvious what the narrative will be in the city. But if guys like either Quez Watkins or Jalen Reagor or Greg Ward have big games, if one of those three guys or all three, or if they just catch passes and look better, what is that going to say about the offense and the ability for these receivers who have been just killed by the receivers not named Goddard and Smith?
Yeah.
Might it say something about them?
Well, we know the city loves the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And it'll be a bright, dark day, right? Bright for Mitch.
That is a perfect summation.
Exactly. That's what it would be in Philadelphia. You know, everyone would be excited, the receivers would be happy, and but at the same time, this city just can't handle two quarterbacks.
Oh, it would be crazy and talk radio if that happens.
It would be, and you know what? And Greg said it the best, right? When I look at Minshew, you see the lack of arm strength. But that bodes well for receivers if a guy is on time. If the quarterback is on time, receivers love catching from pillow throwers.
Yep.
Yes.
Right? They just
Nick
do.
Foles.
Nick Foles, Jeff Garcia, Kurt Warner, Chad Pennington. These guys throw catchable, palatable balls that cause guys to run after catch better.
Right.
And they don't have to fight against the quarterback's arm strength.
Right.
Like that's what the Zach Wilson. Like, I feel bad for the Jets receivers. The kid doesn't know how to throw the ball soft. He just throws a million miles an hour, 5 yards away from a guy. You know, you hate catching from guys like that. So having Minshew back there may be good for the receivers.
Well, one thing to keep in mind, though, and this is the larger, we're not suggesting that Minshew's the answer. That's not the point.
Yeah.
We're talking about today.
Right. Today.
You know,
Yep.
But when it gets to Jalen Hurts, it raises the larger question going forward, because at this point in Jalen Hurts' career, so let's say Jalen Hurts, he's obviously going to miss today.
Yeah.
Whether he misses more, we don't know the answer to that. Based on what you said, maybe he's got an injury that's a little deeper than just a slightly sprained ankle. But the question for the organization is not what Jalen Hurts is now. We know what Jalen Hurts is now. The question is that sustainable over time?
Right.
And the second part of that question is, can he be more than that?
Exactly.
Those are the two questions that have to be answered going forward.
Exactly.
We know what he is now, and they're playing to what he is now.
Right. Listen, even though Minshew's starting today, we are going to talk a little Jalen Hurts. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, just my experience. Just my experience. Usually when injuries like this occur, where a guy has said, he came out and said, I'll be fine for Sunday.
And then he's not
and
playing?
he's not playing, that's usually not a good sign.
No.
Yeah.
It's just just in my experience.
Right.
Being in the it's just not my
When you
it's
say
just
not a good sign, what do you mean by that?
It's usually like one of those, hey, you're dealing with an injury, we want you to heal up and get better, and this is our excuse to play the backup guy when
in a game they have to win.
That's usually what happens.
Well,
I've seen it happen with Michael Vick. I've seen it happen with Donovan McNabb. I've seen it happen with a lot of guys.
In a game they have to win, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, though, in fairness to the injury here, you played, I'm sure, with quarterbacks who had some kind of ankle or lower or foot. If they can't drive the ball that well, I mean, we already know the running is a big part of his game. So if he can't do that, that's an obvious reason not to play him. But in general, how much does that impact a quarterback's ability to throw when he has trouble planting that foot?
It's kind of hard for me to believe that it's going to be harder. It's harder for this guy to throw the ball off a plant rather than run.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know. Just me logically, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you want me to read option and make cuts and stuff like that, and I can do that, but I can't plant off my back foot and throw it. Maybe I'm missing something.
He didn't run. After he got his ankle hurt in that game, I don't think he ran after that.
Yeah, I'm just talking about earlier this week when he came out and said that he thought he would be fine for Sunday, and I know Toradol can do some amazing things, and some adrenaline can work. And if he walked off that field and played the entirety of the game, which he did, it's very, very unlikely that he can't be up and operable for this game Sunday. That's what I'm saying.
Even if he didn't practice at all. I mean, he's your starting quarterback.
Right. Well, and then Adam, I want to get to that. We kind
of
right.
But yeah,
we brought this up that if he was able to play, he should be the quarterback. And then no matter what happens today, I still believe Jalen Hurts, when he's ready to play, should be the starting quarterback. That's 100%. What this year is about. And I don't care if Minshew throws for 800 yards and 8 touchdowns today.
This is about the evaluation development of Jalen Hurts.
Right.
Get that at full evaluation, then make a decision on what you're going to do next at quarterback.
Yeah.
He's got to play, and he will play after the bye. As long as his ankle allows him to, he'll be the quarterback.
All right. Well, one thing is for certain, as we all alluded to, whatever happens today, it's going to be talked about quite a bit this week in Philadelphia, regardless of the outcome.
You think?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a topic of conversation.
It's inevitable.
It is inevitable.
He's about to
The
go
game
for
doesn't even need to be
350
played.
yards. He's throwing for 350 and 3 touchdowns.
Oh, you know that's happening, right?
It's inevitable.
It is inevitable.
But Jason's right. What happens if like Rager has 5 for 85 and Smith has 7 for 110?
Oh, we'll be talking about him today, by the way.
Yeah, we will be talking about what happens. Yeah. Exactly. All right, let's talk about some of the guys other guys who won't be playing and will be playing. The injury report is pretty big, especially for the Eagles' opponent once again. Eagles are hurting a little bit. Out today is Jordan Howard, who has the knee sprain, so he will miss his second straight game. And folks, the running game in general is a big question mark. Boston Scott did not practice all week. He's expected to play, but he had an illness that was not COVID related. He was not practicing all week, I believe.
Correct.
He was out of practice all week, so they're kind of dust him off and throw him out onto the field today. And Miles Sanders has said during the week that he felt good, but he did have an aggravation of the ankle injury last week against the Giants, and so we have to see how strong the ankle is today and how well it holds up. But the fact, Adam, that they did not call up Jason Huntley from the practice squad means they're pretty much going with a two-man running game.
I don't worry about Boston Scott's ability to play. It's like how many snaps could he handle, because he had an illness that wasn't just for one day.
Right.
So you do wonder about the energy and stamina and all that.
Kenny Gainwell game.
Yeah, look, get Gainwell involved, who really, quite frankly, he got off to that really good start. His role's got smaller, and smaller, so maybe here's a day to do it and get that screen game going, which has been wildly inconsistent, to say the least.
Right. All right, good news for the Eagles is that center Jason Kelsey, not even listed with an injury designation. He had a knee thing that forced him out of last week's game. He said there was some swelling earlier in the week.
Yep.
Yeah, he came back.
Right.
He said there was some swelling even after the game earlier this week, but he seems to be fine and he will play. Now, as we get to the Jets, before we even get to their current injuries of guys who are available to play but are not playing, they got a laundry list of guys who are really important to them who are on IR. The running back, the rookie Michael Carter, tight end Tyler Kroft, of course the left tackle Mekhi Becton, who's been out with a knee injury for quite a while. They lost Carl Lawson in training camp. He was the star of their training. He was getting like 2 sacks a day if you were following the Jets beat writers. He was incredible, absolutely. Marcus May, their safety, good safety, has been out with a torn Achilles. LaMarcus Joyner, torn triceps. Bryce Huff with the back injury. Linebacker Jamian Sherwood, Achilles, and cornerback Brandon Eccles with a thigh. Those are all guys who weren't even ready from the start because they are on IR. Now, wide receiver Corey Davis is the interesting one. He is questionable. He missed last week with a groin injury. And you had pointed out that they called him questionable last week, too, when he didn't play, right?
Right. In fact, this is a new injury. He had a hip injury, which caused him to miss a game. He was cleared, he played, and then in a practice after that, he got hurt. He suffered a groin injury on their last practice 2 weeks ago. And what happened was they weren't really sure to start the week, and then he said I could go. So he practiced Friday, which you know is a light practice.
Yeah.
He's still questionable, but clearly if he does not play, that changes a lot because he's the one receiver with size. And remember, Keelan Cole is one of their top 4 receivers. He's on the COVID list. So they don't have a lot of depth right now, particularly if Corey Davis is not playing.
Right. Also, their right tackle, Morgan Moses, questionable with a knee injury. We'll see if he can go.
Interesting.
That would be big if he could not. On defense, got a couple of linemen out. Foley Fatukasi, I hope I pronounced that correctly, is questionable with a back injury. John Franklin Myers, questionable with a hip.
He's a good player.
He is,
He
yes.
balled last week.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Linebacker Quincy Williams, who's the brother of Quinnen Williams, right? He is questionable with a calf.
Another good player.
Sheldon
Both of them
Rankins,
are.
a good defensive lineman, is doubtful.
He's their third tackle.
Yeah, doubtful with a knee. So, and a partridge in a pear tree, as it goes with Jets.
Because actually, their front seven, everybody thinks, hey, the Jets, they stink.
Right.
Although they did beat the Bengals and the Titans. But their front seven group has some talent.
They're solid.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
But if those guys are out, obviously that changes everything.
Their back end's bad, though.
The big question for the Eagles, it's not really a question. It's right guard, obviously, with Jack Driscoll going on IR. I would think that Nate Herbig is going to go in because he's one. But it is worth pointing out that Jason Kelsey made a remark in his press conference this week that Sua Opeta, their backup guard, has been killing it in practice, and that I believe the quote was, his stock is hotter than Tesla's right now. So nobody forced Jason Kelsey to say that. He came out and volunteered it. Nate Herbig did have 2 very costly penalties last week. I imagine he still starts. I don't know if there's a short leash here, but I guess we know if he does get hurt or if Landon Dickerson gets hurt, Sua Opeta would be the next man in. and clearly he's been impressing his teammates.
So my understanding on Rapetta is that he's really a one-position guard player. He is much better off at left guard than right. They've tried him at right guard. He's not real comfortable with it. They like his athleticism and strength. He's got a lot in his body, but the reason why he wasn't drafted was that a lot of the traffic when he would sort it out, wasn't great with it.
Okay.
But in terms of athleticism and size and strength, he's got everything. It's a guy. It's why they keep bringing him back, because he's got a lot of upside. But he's only a one-position player. This is not typically like the Eagles. They like guys who can play multiple positions. Mm-hmm. But when you can't play both guard spots at a high enough level, you usually don't get on the field. That's why he's been a backup.
I've heard that about tackles. You can play one side, you struggle at the other.
Yeah.
Why would guard be similar? Is it just the same as far as which hand is in the dirt, or because I was under the impression that wasn't as big of a deal at guard as it is at tackle, playing sides.
So was I, but that's what I heard.
Is it
I've never heard it that it was that's the first time I've heard of a
he's not as
one-position
good
guard player.
at right guard. He's more comfortable at left guard. Maybe it's because that's where he played in college sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering
That's
what
way beyond my simple mind.
Don't sell yourself short. Don't do that. As far as you know.
The Eagles did elevate Jared Maiden from the practice squad once again. He's a safety. I believe he got some significant special
12
teams time.
snaps or something on specials. Yeah, so they like him there.
Yeah. So again, obviously with the Eagles, it's going to be about their running game because they have running backs who are either sick or coming off an injury, and they've got a backup lineman in now at right guard, and then we'll see if Jason Kelsey is completely 100% or if he's just playing through pain, which he is known to do. So this all folds into the idea that you think that they're going to be trying to establish the run. They've got a new quarterback. They may be under center a little bit more. We'll talk about that. But are you guys surprised that they did not add more to the running game? As far as they got a guy on the practice squad in Jason Huntley, who's been here for 2 years.
Oh, because of Sanders playing with
Sanders
an injury,
and Boston Scott was
that's true.
was
I mean,
sick
they're going to dress 3, and Huntley could have been the 4th just in case. But he's a smaller guy, very quick, explosive. Mm-hmm. But to me, the one thing they lack now without Jordan Howard, we didn't talk about him, is that size. Boy, he's revived his career.
Yeah.
And hopefully for them, they'll be back after the bye.
That is a big part. If they're going to be more downhill, they really don't have a big guy like Jordan Howard type. But not that, and we've talked about Miles Sanders has run more tougher than people give him credit for. But there's a different level when you got Jordan Howard.
So it is a different level, and I actually took time out this week to just look at the difference, and everything is at the end of the play for both of the guys, especially Miles Sanders, right? Instead of Miles Sanders putting his head down and getting that last 2 yards, he's always at the end of the run trying to still break it. Right. You know, so he'll be right at the top where he's about to get tackled, but he's still trying to cut to break it, which cuts off his power. Jordan Howard is able to get 3-4 more yards at the end of the run because he doesn't have the mentality that I can break it.
Right.
You know, so, and that's it. He's just finishing the runs a lot better because of his inability to break the big one.
Sure.
You know, and Miles Sanders thinks that he can break it at any time. Not that he's breaking outside of the tackle and running around the edges.
No,
it's just right at the end of it. Right at the end of the run, yeah.
And
so that's an easy tackle for a defender when the guy's trying to cut at the end. It's easy tackle.
Who was the great former running back who wasn't really that great, but he was famous for saying, if you need 3, I'll get you 3.
Oh.
If you need 5, I'll get you 3.
For the Vikings, it was...
Who was it? It was a Vikings running back.
He played under Dennis Green.
It wasn't William Floyd, was it?
It was a backup running back. No,
I
it
can't
was
remember.
definitely the Vikings. It was...
It wasn't Robert Griffin.
No, it was a running back. It was...
Yeah.
I could see the guy. I could see the... Oh, this is going to bother me.
Was he a big back?
James, you know who it is.
Okay.
Our producer,
Exactly
James
who it is.
Hyden, a big Vikings fan, knows who it is.
Was it a big back?
He was a big guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Gerhardt.
Google it. You'll find it. It's a great quote.
Guy
It's
had a beard. It
one of
was,
the best quotes in NFL history, I thought. If you need 3, I'll get you 3. If you need 5,
And this guy was
I'll get
totally
you
like
3.
that. Yeah, totally like that. He was a
3
grinder.
yards in a cloud of dust.
Our favorite term, a grinder.
Yeah.
All right, a reminder, you can come down, check out the show, have have a good time here with me, Adam, Greg, and Jason. And if you want to stick around, which you should, there's a great watch party that Adam and I will have when the Jets and the Eagles kick off around 1 o'clock. Reminder, retweet the show, please share, leave us some comments. I already see some comments stacking up, and we will get to your comments as we get to those topics in the script. I promise a lot of people want to talk about the running game and about Minshew, which we will get to. And let's see, let's tell you about our friends at Deal Dash. I mean, we talk about them all the time. It's the holiday season. It's a time there you can win free gifts and then give them away if you don't like them. But you get amazing stuff at discount prices just using Deal Dash. if you go to DealDash.com, it's the online shopping platform that's actually fun. It's the longest running penny auction website and app around, and some of the stuff you can get is just too good to be true. We've seen a car sell for $900, a brand new TV go for less than $2. You can get great tools, great electronics, things for the house, all of that at discount prices because you want it in a penny auction. It's just an exciting way to get new things, all right? So don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for things you want and get on Deal Dash. Go to DealDash.com or download the app, and when you register, use the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. All right, yes.
It was Leroy Horde.
Leroy Horde.
Yeah.
Leroy Horde.
Excellent.
Who played in Cleveland, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leroy Horde.
Yeah,
And he was that
I had
kind
to
of
look it
back.
up.
Yeah.
I was bothering me.
Michigan guy, I believe.
He was a Michigan guy, right,
He's
Jay?
a pure power runner, pure power.
Before my time.
He was a Michigan guy. Wasn't he?
You were playing basketball
Yes,
at that
correct.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a
yeah.
Michigan guy.
For the Browns and then the Vikings to end his career. Yeah, for sure.
He actually had a pretty nice career.
Yeah.
Jay, probably you don't know any Michigan players before you actually played there. You thought
I
you were
do.
going to the NBA, didn't you?
But yeah, I was definitely basketball first.
Were you really?
Yeah, I was a good basketball player.
In high school?
Yeah.
What position?
Point.
Point.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
point guard.
Me too,
Even
a long
a lot
time
taller.
ago.
Long
Greg,
time
you were
ago.
small forward or big guard?
I was a small forward.
Small forward back then. Okay.
Small. You?
6'4".
You're a pretty
I
tall
was
dude.
6'4", yeah, but
All
this
right.
was in...
Back in your day,
I
I
was
thought
in
you were
high
a
school in
center.
1971 to 1974, so...
Yeah.
Which century?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we talked about the last game and all the ugliness. The Eagles need to shake off one of their worst offensive efforts of the season. 7 points, season low. 4 turnovers, obviously. 3 interceptions by Jalen Hurts. There was a fumble by Boston Scott. I do think it's important before we talk about Minshew and everything to go back and look at all the things that did not go right for the Eagles last week. And we have talked a lot about Jalen Hurts and his dynamic ability as a runner, but struggles as a passer. You saw the numbers: 14 to 21, 129 passing yards, 3 interceptions, 45% completion percentage, 17.5 passer rating. That is ugly. 17.5 passer rating is one of the lowest you can get, and 4.2 yards per attempt. Greg, we don't want to sound like a broken record. We kind of detail areas where Jalen Hurts has struggled, but I wanted to ask you if there's anything you thought specifically that the Giants did last week that catered to Jalen Hurts' weaknesses, whether it being blitzing or coverage or anything.
I think we need to talk about it more from a Jalen Hurts perspective.
Okay.
I think there's the obvious, like the red zone interception, which is a play you can't make.
Right.
The second, I guess it was the last interception on the vertical throw, which I think showed, obviously it was not a good play by Hurts. He did not control the post safety, and he doesn't really have a big downfield arm. His deep balls lose energy on the back end. Those are the obvious things I think you can see. But then I think you have to get to the details. And I just like Jason does, I made notes on specific plays. Like the first 3rd and long was a 3rd and 11. Hurts broke down in the pocket with no pressure, leaving a design throw on the field. He had the dig ball to Rager versus cover 4. Giants rushed 3 and went 4 under 4 deep. Hurts left the pocket and ran for 1 yard. That's a detail play.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was I'm not going to go through 10 examples here,
Sure.
but I made this note: details of the quarterback position. Rager won on a quick slant versus Robinson on 4th and 2 on the first possession of the 3rd quarter. Hurts was a beat late and too far outside with the throw. No sense of quicker tempo on his drop and throw at all. These are details of the position, and these matter in games.
Sure.
Obviously then people see a great run and they think, wow, that's great. But it's the details, the nuances, the disciplines of the position that ultimately make guys great quarterbacks. He's still in that stage of learning those things, and they come back to haunt you. And then, of course, he makes the great throw to Rager at the end, which, I think Rager has to catch that ball.
We will get to that.
The last 2.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, the first one he has to catch through contact. It's not as easy as it looks, but you still got to catch it.
It looks like somebody agrees with Jason on the pass interference.
It was a little pass. It was the guy passing. It was pass
Yeah.
interference. He's got to make the play though.
He's got to make the play.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
He wasn't close to making it though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Usually there's a sense of, okay, the ball is short. Let me lean back to Willie Mays.
Right.
It's just the timing and the feel of it.
Right.
He wasn't close to making it, and that's my problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, if he makes that catch or the next one, which was a much easier catch, we might, they'd probably win the game and maybe there's a different conversation we're having. But it still doesn't take away from what I just said.
Yeah, I don't even know that there is, because I remember the Panthers game was a very ugly win, and out of that came, let's talk about some of the things that were unsightly, as opposed to, hey, the Eagles won a game, right? I mean, people were happy that they won, and it did help them, but overall there were some things that did not look good in that game that wound up becoming emphasized.
But also keep in mind, just before the red zone interception at the end of the first half, he did make a throw to Greg Ward that should have been caught for a touchdown.
I agree.
So, I mean,
Greg Ward should be, 4 for 4 touchdowns this year on the same play.
Yep.
He should
Sprint
be
right
4.
option, right?
It's been sprint right option. Yeah. He should be 4 for 4 in the play.
And Goddard had a drop, and Gregor made the great catch down the left side, which is really one of the plays of the game.
Sure.
There were some drops in that game,
Yeah,
too.
there were.
Yeah, well, you pointed out in our pod that when people watch tape, I mean, that we can talk about a lot of the deficiencies we saw, but there were some really good throws as well, which is what we talk about seemingly on a weekly basis.
The bottom line is, there's still an inconsistency to his game. Now, again, people can say, well, he started. I think now we started the equivalent of one full season, right?
Well, I mean, a past full season, yes.
Yes, 16 games. So, people can say he's still learning, and I am a firm believer in that. I think that given the style of quarterback that he is, because he came into the league with no one saying he was a high-level passer.
Right.
That was not his game coming out.
Right.
Okay, so given what he is as a quarterback, one could say he's on a certain track that if he continues that track, maybe he develops.
Right.
But there's a lot of inconsistency to his play, and depending on the rest of the team, it'll show up in it shows up in every game, and it could lead to a win, depending on the rest of the team, or a loss, depending on the rest of the team.
Right. I want to ask you about the detail, well, both of you guys, about the details comment that you made, because Jay, in breaking down the game with Quentin Michael on the Q&A show, I think the first interception, you talked about him maybe not looking off the robber to leave Quez maybe a little bit more time, or to keep that route going.
Yeah, so it's both, right? So here's the thing with Jalen. Like, Jalen has his things, like the 2 interceptions, the one before halftime and the one where he stares down the guy. First of all, he shouldn't even look in there. The guy's 12 yards off. Right, I'm eliminating him right away. Right, so I can do something else with my time. The deep one down the field, with McKinney. The corner was 12 yards off at the beginning of the route. I'm eliminating that from the beginning.
You don't throw verticals against off coverage.
Well, I don't have to. When I have a zone concept on the other side, why waste my time? Right. So that's one issue, and then. The other issues that Jalen has is that he doesn't have the veteran receiver that's going to help him out. Right? He's going to help him out.
Times.
So was Jalen a little bit hurt on a 4th and 2? Was he a little bit late? I mean, a little bit. But one of the bigger issues with that route was Jalen Reagor, way too quick. He's in shotgun. I have more time. If I can get to 3 to 5 yards on the slant, I'm going to win. It's going to give the quarterback time to catch the ball, find the laces, and throw it to me. But when you go up and you do a 1-yard route, now you have a young quarterback that's not going to know how to throw without the laces. He's going to be positioning the ball in his hands, going to be forced to throw it off time. Like little things like that. Quez on the interception.
He didn't come out of that break.
Well, here's the thing. He has outside leverage man on an in-breaking route. There is zero chance that I'm ever going to get covered on an outside leverage, defender, and I got an in cut. It just doesn't happen. He's not going to be even close to me. These are things that's not Jalen Hurts' fault. Those are things that the receivers had to. There was a chance where Dallas Goedert at the end of the game, the last drive of the game, has man-to-man head-up coverage against a safety on a corner route. He doesn't win. The ball gets knocked down. These are like things that you just can't get over. And Greg Ward. So there's a lot of blame to go around. But when you start to add up 5 or 6 plays where guys could have made a play or dropped the pass, that's not only Jalen Hurts, that's the other guys with him. So the marriage of the two is not working well right now.
And it's funny because I said this, and Adam knows this because we do other things, but I said when I went through the tape, I didn't think Hurts was as bad just as an individual. I mean, I mentioned the details. You could say that in almost every game at this point in his career. But I didn't think he was as bad as the game looked. If let's say you're watching it on TV, where I'm sure everybody thought he was horrible because they scored 7 points,
3 interceptions,
plays, But I did not think that just as an individual he played as poorly as maybe it looked.
Just want to go back to what Jason said, and this is what Jeff and I decreed before the season started. They made a mistake, the Eagles did, of not signing a veteran receiver. Guy's been there, done that. He doesn't need to play 50 plays a game. Might be 20, 25. Someone who's a reliable pass target, who'll run the right route, will play through contact, and this is a big problem with this receiver group, has got reliable hands.
Right.
These guys make too many mistakes. I get that they wanted to have this group grow with Hurts. That's fine. But where's that reliable pass target? They don't have that guy. And
agree.
Hurts is traded, so they really don't have that
Someone
guy.
who can also just not also along with being reliable, but just spread some knowledge, just help guys
Even
out.
just being the
Yep,
receiver.
yep,
You know how important that stuff
I
is.
mean, we brought up there were a couple
I
of
would just love a guy that can just beat man consistently.
Right.
there you go too.
That's like, and that's what the veteran. You just want a guy that can beat man
Well,
consistently.
then knows
they
how
win.
to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
The-
You know,
there
like
were-
those are things.
We talked about there were a couple of I thought slot blitzes that either were not seen by the quarterback or that you didn't see the wide receiver signal to the quarterback that that's my guy
Right.
coming. You didn't see an adjusted route by that receiver knowing that his man was blitzing, and that made me wonder in a bigger picture how much of that is on an individual, whether it's the guy, the receiver, or the fact that, as we're bringing up, you have a first-year quarterback. All of his weapons, wide receiver weapons, are either first-year or second-year players. You have a first-year head coach who's a first-time play caller. You have a whole lot of rookiness going on from top to bottom, and then the offense itself, when it's a passing offense, has a West Coast concept to it, which is a lot of timing and rhythm, and those are concepts that you usually associate with experience and snaps and reps and knowing where to be on certain times. It does feel a little bit, as we take the bigger view of it, that it's pretty hard to expect that this thing was going to be well-oiled when there were so many new things going on running this style of offense.
And when you're when you're in this offense from a play caller's perspective, it's very, very hard. The reason I say you have that young quarterback, you have all the young receivers. You can't do the motion like Adam talks about.
Right.
You can't get in bunches. You have to, like, if you watch their games, they're stagnant. It's a bunch of guys out, and now that's the hardest position, the hardest place to win one-on-one football, because it's you and the guy. You have to be a superior talent or the better technician. So now I can't get those advantages of running through a bunch or running a crosser and all of these things because my guys are too young. Maybe my quarterback can't read that out.
Right.
So the offense coordinator is stuck in a pickle because he's trying to overcome so much.
Right. And that's why, I mean, when we look at this offense and this team in general, it's been the running game that has been its backbone when they started to turn things around. That's a little bit easier to kind of get going than a passing game when you don't have to, you can hand the ball off instead of relying on communication and as much experience. What's up?
The last thing I'll say about this is that the Jets did a great job of keeping the Eagles in second and long.
Giants.
Oh,
Yes.
the Giants.
Right.
Giants. The Giants kept them in second and long, which caused them to get into the passing game, which they don't want to do. Which I was a little bit frustrated at Sirianni. Like, even though it's 2nd and 10, we don't have an option but to run the ball.
Right.
Like, but we passed it early and we didn't figure out till later in the game. But,
Right. Well, how difficult, as we move on to the run a little bit, I mean, we know that there's not going to be zone read. We have pointed out
Or
in the
design
last-
quarterback runs.
Or zone quarterback runs. So, and we've pointed out the last 2 weeks that those runs have really helped the conventional running game, come into fruition as opposed to vice versa. So now you have a quarterback who's got some mobility but isn't going to run a whole lot. You're going to be more downhill, but you don't have your best downhill running back. Are you expecting that this is going to be a very prolific run offense today, or they're going to fight for every yard they get?
I'm expecting to see some RPO stuff, right? So some run pass stuff where you still can run some read elements, but it's a pass off of it rather than a run.
Sure.
I think that's a way to kind of continue the continuity of this offense going forward. But I'm hoping to see it under center. But I don't know how effective the run game will be today. No one knows.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say it's gonna be probably challenged in a way that it hasn't been over the last 4 or 5. I mean, they were challenged a little bit last week, but they still ran for over 200 yards on 33 carries. So we'll see. Now they're playing a Jets defense that's pretty banged up, but nonetheless, they're banged up as well, so it may change the conversation a little bit. To your guys' point about the receivers, Matt Hatter on YouTube says that he can't imagine Gardner Minshew being able to complete 66% of his passes with Eagles receivers. And then I think he's also saying with the way this offense has been, now you just have another new trigger man in there. So all that experience, his reps come with guys like Keyshawn Johnson and John Hightower on the practice squad. This is the first week he's actually thrown to guys like Rager and Devontae Smith. So how much of a rhythm can you expect there? When Jeff Garcia comes into the game, they lost the first time, right? Remember that?
I remember, but I remember in practice us being pretty excited too.
Right. Yeah.
Just
They had
to be
Hank
honest.
Baskett throwing passes that day, Jay.
Listen, I remember Jeff, because I remember, Reggie Brown got paid because of Jeff Garcia. Now, so let's get this straight. Reggie Brown was on his way out of Philly because he couldn't catch the in cuts from Donovan McNabb. They were coming in a little bit too hard. But he played with Jeff Garcia those last 6 games, and he got paid after that season.
Right.
Like the backup quarterback, if he throws the ball well, can change some things. That's all I'm saying.
Let me just tell you, back in those days, we were still allowed to watch practice. And I just remember from training camp to the beginning of the year, watching Jeff Garcia in practice was it was not pleasing to the eyes. I mean, he was never throwing the ball deep.
No.
It was always a check down, and we would say, there's no way he's going to go into a game and succeed. He would throw to Darnarian McCants at training camp. That was the big connection. And when he got in there and shook off that first game and then all of a sudden started winning, and you got to see how he plays the game I think we talked about it. Some guys who play differently when they're actually in the game as opposed to practice, because then all their instincts kick in and their improv, and he had so many second reaction plays that
Jeff
you just
Garcia was a runaround quarterback.
see in practice.
Right.
He
You
would
don't see that
drive.
stuff.
He would drive his coaches crazy.
Yeah.
Because the throw would be here. He didn't like that throw. He didn't like that throw. He keeps scrambling around, and then finally, he's just a very safe thrower.
Yeah.
But
And in
he got the job
practice,
done.
you don't get pass rush. They don't touch you.
Right.
So you never got to see any of that extra element that he brought to the game. So then all of a sudden he's out there playing, and you're like, where is that? That was the Jeff Garcia.
Could see
Well,
that
I
today.
understand Jason's point of view 100%, because if they can protect, he's a natural rhythm player.
Minshew.
Yes. I mean, that's his game, because he's never been a big guy. He's not physically imposing. He doesn't have a big arm. So from the time he started playing quarterback, how did he have to play the position? He had to learn how to play the position with a sense of timing, rhythm, get the ball out of my hands. I'm not going to do anything with the ball if the timing doesn't work.
Right.
So that's the way he was brought up, playing the position.
Sure.
So that's what he is.
Sure. So given that, Bobby Murphy on YouTube asks, is the flip script today? Is it come out pass heavy today? Use the pass to set up the
Question, yeah.
I'm not doing that.
run. We know you're not doing that, Jay, but you know Nick Sirianni, and you remember the first 7 weeks of the season.
I don't think that's Nick Sirianni's heart. I don't. I still say that. I still don't think the first couple weeks of the season was Nick
what he wants-
Sirianni,
right,
was what Nick Sirianni wants to do.
Right.
Was to come out and throw the ball
Yep.
75% of the time.
Right,
I just
I
don't.
agree.
I think that's a full Jalen Hurts evaluation from management.
I agree.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I think.
Okay.
Right.
I couldn't agree more.
More, you made more of a bounce attack?
Like Indianapolis,
More
right?
in the beginning of the year. Let's see how well can Jalen Hurts pass the ball thing.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is an evaluation year for Hurts. I don't think that was Nick Sirianni's desire to come out and throw the ball.
Also,
70,
remember how
70.
RPO heavy it was? I mean, that was what Jalen Hurts functioned best as at Oklahoma, and I think he was trying to put the quarterback in a position where he was familiar and thought he would have a lot of success there. Obviously, it did not work out.
You know, it's funny, this RPO stuff, I watch tape of as many teams as I can every week, obviously. And sometimes when I watch tape, I think that we've now reached the point where there's RPO structures of plays that look like RPOs, but they're not RPOs. They're throws.
You can tell by if
I
the
think-
receivers are blocking or not.
I
or-
can't say 100%,
Yeah, it's
but
tough.
I think that there's structures that look like RPOs, but I try to see where the quarterback's head is, and sometimes the quarterback's head is nowhere near looking at a
The
defender.
defensive end.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he's just so it looks like an RPO the way it's blocked too.
Right.
It looks like an RPO
Right.
because normally in RPO, the side of the run they block run, and then the other side they pass protect. I mean, that's generally what an RPO is in terms of the offensive line.
Sure.
So they still do that, but I just don't know if it's truly an RPO.
Well, it makes sense because A, there's been a rise in the use of RPOs lately, so you want to at least try to use deception there. But B, as we saw in the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season, they were cracking down on all the illegal men downfield that
Right.
they were not cracking down on the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And that was hurting teams who were relying a lot on the RPOs, like the Eagles. They probably were banging
And pick
3 or
plays,
4
Eagles-
times a game in the
Yeah.
first 3
Eagles
or 4
got
weeks.
nailed
and
on the pick plays,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's talk about Jalen Reagor because he's going to be a part of a passing game today. He did have the 2 drops in the last 3 plays of the game. Both were catchable passes, should have been caught, there's no doubt about it. And now he's become public enemy number 1 throughout the week. in Philadelphia.
He went from public enemy 1A to public enemy
number one. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He became public enemy number one. There's even been calls by some that the Eagles should just cut him and cut bait. We know that they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
There have been some comparisons to what Nelson Aguilar went through the first 2 years. Adam, how do you see the Jalen Reagor, Nelson Aguilar comparison?
Just from covering the 16 situation with Aguilar, he had trouble getting out of his own way. It's probably the best way to say it. To the point where they had to bench him. It wasn't just not catching the ball, getting lined up correctly. The awful situation in Seattle. We see Greg Lewis, the receivers coach. Hey
Screaming
man,
at him.
right? Get lined up correctly. He just struggled from a mental standpoint where they had to bench him, and it would help him. You saw how well he did in 17. Where Reagor has not had a good year. We all know that. There have been some issues, obviously, of catching the football. The one thing that I'm surprised that's happened to him, because I remember we did homework on him after the draft and before the draft. You're playing through contact. He's a guy's all jacked up.
Yeah.
Maybe it's hand, Jason. You know better. Is it hand usage? What is for a guy who's built like this? Why doesn't he win? What do you see from him?
Well, so I'm gonna answer that question, but the Aguilar comparison is not a great comparison because Aguilar has never struggled with getting open.
Right.
Nelson Aguilar can get open. That's one thing that he's always been able to do.
Right.
Catching it was something totally different.
Yeah.
Right. Wouldn't you say though that
but yards after the catch and getting open are his strong suit, and always have been. Nelson Aguilar. Okay. But Jalen has I haven't seen on tape from college and tape from the pros, and I've literally watched all of Jalen Reagor's college games. Of a natural ability to get open when it's press coverage and route running technical stuff. With the ball in his hand, yes. A post route, yes.
Right.
But just making guys think that he's doing something different, that's not his strong suit.
Can that be taught, though?
Yes, it can be taught, but certain body types struggle. Certain body types that there has to be like a little bit of like looseness to your hips, a little bit of looseness to your style.
And he's a little stiff.
And he is a little bit, a little bit stiffer.
He's a little stiff and straight line.
Yeah.
How would you compare him to Deebo Samuel?
No. They're not the same players. They're not the same players. Deebo again can still make a guy move, and he still has he's more flexible.
He's more fluid.
He's more Deebo to me is more fluid.
Okay.
Even though Deebo is a big guy, he still makes some spectacular catches. His balance is tremendous. And they use that speaks to flexibility. So it's a little bit different.
Okay.
Now, why don't Jalen Reagor? He is a stout, compact type of guy. I don't know. To me, I think it's mental. That's just me. That's me. I don't think that there's a toughness to this game, even if you're a small guy. One of my favorite players that ever played this game, receiver, Steve Smith. Steve Smith was a butt kicker, and it was all mentality.
Yes.
And shying away from contact, running around guys, that's not something Steve Smith would do.
Right.
Jalen Reagor does these things, and I don't know if it's because of an inability of doing this in the past, and I have an experience of doing this, or if the moment's too big. I don't know yet.
Right.
It's kind of hard for me to glean, like that 4th and 2. You can't stutter in front of a guy, you're a yard off the line of scrimmage and you end up at 1 yard and you go in on the slant when it's 4th and 2.
Right.
The quarterback doesn't have the ball, defender is closing in. Those types of things you have to get better at. And then at the end of the game with the ball there, it's like he was expecting contact. So, and then on his kickoff returns and punt returns.
Yeah.
There's usually, when you're an elite guy on those plays, you're going to be able to pop one. You're going to be able to get a 15, 20, 30-yarder. You're going to make the first 2-3 guys miss. I knew when Brian Westbrook was back there, here's a chance for him to score a touchdown. So there's too many things that are adding up in the wrong way for me.
It's got to be a little surprising because I know for you, who coached him last year as an assistant wide receivers coach, you have said, and you've continued to say it this year, that of all the wide receivers that they have,
he's the toughest.
he is the toughest,
Right.
which you would think would correlate to playing.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're saying that he is the toughest, he's got the DNA, but in between the white lines, he's not showing that. He's not
Just
translating.
Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if it's, like I said, mental, being in Philadelphia, all of those things. Like, it's tough. Like, that comparison to Justin Jefferson, he hears that. And,
Yeah.
and it's clear that he hears that because he's made comments about it and how he's going to do this. Like, this is a tough city for a guy that isn't playing up to, expectation. And I'm not blaming the Eagles fans for this at all. It's just that these younger players are more, they hear more noise than the older players. And I think that may be something to do with it. That's just me. That's speculation.
What's
but that's
interesting,
me.
though, is, obviously you got the Justin Jefferson thing, and we know that Justin Jefferson's a better receiver. That's not the point. But Rager was considered, where Rager was drafted was where most people thought he could be. It wasn't that the Eagles reached for Jalen Rager.
Correct. Adam and I say that on the podcast
we
all
can,
the time.
We can talk about the Justin Jefferson comparison. And by the way, for a lot of people, it's easy now. I'm not saying that Rager's better. All I'm saying is that Justin Jefferson, I don't know how you felt about Jefferson, but he played almost exclusively in the slot his last year at LSU.
Right.
He had 111 receptions, 104 of them came out of the slot.
Yep.
And a lot of people, a lot of smart people, believed that he was a slot receiver.
I mean,
and that's what he was.
He was the fourth wide receiver taken, not the first.
And he's turned out to be far more than that.
Oh, he's been
and
great.
that's a great job by the Vikings. And I was wrong on him to the sense that I wasn't sure. And he's one of my favorite receivers to watch now.
Yeah.
So you probably like him too. There's nothing really not to like about him. But all I'm making the point is Rager was not viewed as a reach at the time he was chosen.
Correct.
There was someone on Peterson's staff I know who definitely had a voice. Obviously, the GM would make the call, but there was definitely someone on Peterson's staff who thought what Greg was saying, felt the same way. Wasn't sure if he could play on the outside at this level, and obviously that turned out not to be correct. But you didn't know that going in, because if you watch the coaching tape leading up to the draft, if you see him only play one way, do you think he can win on the outside?
Anytime you have to make a
projection,
someone's right and someone's wrong.
Right. Yep.
And the people who are right, people act like, well, they knew.
Yeah.
No, they didn't know. You make a projection, and you make your projection ideally based on accumulated knowledge over time.
Sure.
But even people that have accumulated knowledge over time said he's a slot receiver. So that's the way that stuff works.
So here's the thing that would make me think a little bit otherwise, and this is where it all would have changed for me. If Justin Jefferson would have ran a 4.55, I would say, oh, he's a slot guy.
Right.
When he comes out and blazes a 4.41, that's all out of the window for me.
Right.
Because I can look at his tape and I had to break down the
his
receivers
length. Right.
and his length and all those things. And getting open, route running, making people move out of the spot. Like
He was good at that.
He was great at that.
He also
and you
played
put that
outside as a
4.41.
junior.
Yeah, you put that 4.41 there. It's possible. And then, and let me tell you this. You can win a lot of ball games by playing through a slot receiver.
Oh, no
So I don't understand it.
Right,
You can win a lot of ball games. There's a lot of guys that do it. A lot of teams that have done it.
Absolutely.
I think, again, because of where Rager is now, he's an easy target. And again, you know more about the receiver position than I do, so I'm going to, what you said is all valid and true, obviously, but I think there was a sense that Rager was kind of a multi-positional, multi-dimensional player.
Yes.
Not that he was simply, you line him up here or here, and that's all he is.
Right.
I think he was seen as a guy you could do jet sweeps, orbit reverses. You could get him the ball in space on a short throw, and he had run after
That's
catch.
why I brought up the Debo comparison a little
Right.
bit.
I think there was a sense you could even line him up in the backfield, not necessarily as a runner per se, but you could line him up, like Kadarius Toney in college had meaningful snaps lining up in the backfield and running particular routes. I mean, I think there was a sense he could be one of those kinds of players.
And also, as a punt return, he was electric at TCU in his final year, and then you have not seen that at all, which I don't understand.
It might be a little bit of Jeremy Maclin.
To me, it's like it's mental to me.
Right.
That's just it. I think that it's a mental thing. I think that there's a lot of talent there. I just think that some players, with the pressure and trying to press and all those things, it gets a little bit tough, and it gets quicksand really fast in the city.
Well, maybe the best remedy for him, we talk about the quarterback change, but also the other team on the side of the field is the Jets, and their defense has not been good. They rank just about, among the bottom 5 in every category, 31st in overall defense. They've got the 4th worst pass defense in the league. They allow over 7.5 yards of pass play, which is 2nd worst in the league, and they have the 8th worst 3rd down defense. They are 27th against the run. Third down, 25th, and red zone 18th. So actually a little bit decent.
Well,
in
it's
the
funny
red
though,
zone.
they had a historically bad 4-game stretch. And they've been better since.
They
Now,
have.
again, I'm not
Right.
saying they're a top 5 defense, but they have been better the last couple of weeks. Now, you could say last week they played the Texans. That's fine. But that historically bad 4-game stretch made those numbers look really bad.
That's what we call a great tease, Greg, because I was just about to say here before I threw it to you, over the last 2 weeks, much improved. I mean, 12th in points allowed, 11th in yards allowed, 6th fewest passing yards, and 12th fewest rushing yards. Now, again, they've also not played, or they played Houston, and then they played,
the Dolphins.
Who was it?
The Dolphins.
Right. Those times they were getting gashed, they were playing the Patriots, they were playing the Colts, so it could also be opponent-driven.
So where do we put the Eagles in that
the
category?
Eagles' offense is probably closer to the last 2 weeks. I did hear Robert Saleh, their first-year head coach, say this week that he felt that Quinnen Williams is having a Pro Bowl caliber season. Now, Greg, I was wondering, with Quinnen Williams, and then their linebackers are Jared Davis and C.J. Mosley, right?
Well, Jared Davis will play if Quincy can't
guy,
go.
right.
Over the last couple of
Quincy
weeks,
Williams,
it's
right.
Quincy Williams
Who's played
and
well,
Mosley.
right?
Well, he had a 15 tackle game versus the Dolphins, I believe.
Quincy Williams?
Quincy Williams.
Oh, yeah, he's played. He got hurt last week in the third or fourth quarter, and Jared Davis came in and played, I think, the final 15 snaps of the game, so he'll go.
Right.
But Quincy Williams essentially beat out Jared Davis.
It was shocking when
because Davis was a big free agent
Yes,
signing.
he was, and he was on IR to start the season with an ankle injury. But Quincy Williams was, when the Jags took him, people were shocked, like, wow. Some
He
teams
was a safety in college.
That was it, because some teams had a priority undrafted free agent grade on him, and he had to play a lot eventually because they didn't have anyone else. He comes here, and he's been a revelation. No, their defense is getting better.
Last 2 weeks, he's played really well.
Where they got destroyed was against the Colts and the Bills.
Definitely. All right, well, we'll see if it's the Eagles' offense, Jets' defense,
Well, the main
which
thing,
one is
too,
going to
for them,
improve?
just very quickly, is who's available on their D-line.
Right.
Because in watching their tape the last number of weeks, I think Franklin Myers has played very well.
Okay.
You said Rankins is doubtful. He's played well.
Yeah.
Because he's a quick guy inside. There's another guy who I'm trying to think who's played well, but their front has played well.
Is it the
Foley's another guy who's
Foley?
questionable. He's played well, too,
Yep.
in the run game.
All right, well, we'll see. Let's take a quick break to hear from our friends at Sky Motor Cars and the voice of the Eagles, Mr. Merrill Reese.
Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, big thanks to our friends at Sky Motor Cars. Of course, if you go into their headquarters out there in Westchester, PA, tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You'll get the best deal whether you're buying or trading in your current vehicle. Jay, I want to ask you this. This has something that stuck out to me because when you played, I don't think you've had to deal with this. But the Eagles will have their bye after this game. I mean, this is as late in the season as I can ever remember the Eagles having a bye week. And also, Nick Sirianni over the last few weeks has been doing something differently. His Wednesday practices have been walkthroughs. And he has said he's been trying to keep bodies fresh because the bye week has been so late in the year. We had Trey Thomas on sitting in that seat last year talking about the importance of Wednesday practices, or he would almost kind of poo-poo the idea that veterans are getting rest nowadays. But as someone who's played in the league for a while, what is your kind of opinion on a Wednesday practice being basically just a walkthrough?
Toward the end of the year, I don't see why not. Toward the end, because it takes a lot to get up for these games. There's guys that play in the game. They may not be able to like almost walk sometimes until like Wednesday.
Right.
You know, like because that's how much trauma and how much pain that those guys are in. And some guys don't practice or can't do anything until Friday or Saturday, you know, because it takes a bunch. The banging, as much as, you know, guys are celebrating, but you don't feel it until Monday or Tuesday.
Right.
Of the car accidents that you've been in for a week. So as the year goes on, Coach Reed has always as well, usually somewhere around that, you know, week 12, 13, where sometimes it's a walkthrough for 2 days. You know, I remember when we you know, blew out the Cardinals on Thanksgiving. We kept that schedule for the rest of the season, and we played well. And it was like it was a Thursday night game, so we walked through on Monday, we walked through on Tuesday, rested on Wednesday. Like, we didn't practice for the rest of the year, and we played well. Like, so with a veteran team, I think it's easier, but I think that giving guys more rest, these guys know these plays, and you walking through,
Well, the weird thing is this is such a mix of veterans, but also there's so many young guys, first and second year guys, especially among the quarterback, the weapons, some of the defensive players, that I wonder what kind of impact that might have on them. Players who need reps,
Fresher is always better than to me, fresher is always better because there's a bunch of coaches in the league that are trying to beat the players down. And, you lose games because you guys just are not ready physically to play. And I think fresher can make up for some mental errors.
Sure. We need to get Jay and Trey together to do a counterpoint on practice reps, and because Trey was adamant that these guys were getting pampered.
You got to understand something. Trey and the offensive linemen, they don't move more than 5 yards.
Right.
So let's get this straight. They can talk a bunch of stuff, and they don't even hit people in practice, right? Because you can't, So it's a totally different, running 50 yards, 60 yards play.
Very good. All right, thanks again for tuning into Inside the Birds pregame live with Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, Greg Cosell, Jason Avant. Let's hear from our friends now at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook.
This is my city. This is a city that knows how to play. A city that's in it for the win. So I go to the place that gets that. Where they know how Philly likes to play. And where I know my seat is always ready. This is my place.
All right, big thanks to our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook. Adam and I will be at the Sportsbook right around kickoff to start our watch party. And as we told you on the podcast this week, if you come by and give us the code word, it's actually one word, Myalata, you will walk away with some Eagles memorabilia. It might even be signed, so come on down here and hang with us at the watch party. It is time, as always, for our weekly edition, our segment with former Eagles Pro Bowl safety Quentin Michael. It's called Q's Views, and in this edition, we talk about how you shake off a really tough division loss and what it's like facing a rookie quarterback. All right, we're here with former Eagles Pro Bowl safety Quentin Michael for Q's Views. Now, Q, I know last week must have been very difficult for you, as you do not like the New York Giants. You've made that known. I want to ask you about some of the reactions from the players. You saw Devontae Smith very fired up after the last play. Jordan Mailata talked this week about how he got emotional after the game. You put so much work into a game you expect to win, and when you come out and lose like that, it's tough to take. So if you're head coach of the Eagles this week and you're trying to pull this team out of a tough loss, how do you get them refocused on the task at hand?
Yeah, I mean, that's the key point right there is, you got to focus on the task at hand. The Jets really don't care about the Eagles record. They don't really care about last week's game. All they're trying to do is go out there and whoop your asses. And so you got to really kind of focus on that. Like, as bad as it was last week against the Giants, don't make things worse by going out against the Jets and doing the same thing in the same stadium. So I suspect that should be the kind of message that's coming from, the coaching staff. And, this is a very, I don't want to say winnable game because no game is winnable in the NFL. But this is a game where they can definitely bounce back and try to fix, their mistakes from the last game.
No doubt about it. So as a player, when you played, I know that there's the 24-hour rule, you get it all out and then you refocus. But were there some losses that just stuck in your craw that were harder to overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. There were tons of losses like that. And the one thing that I feel like our generation, the older generation had a benefit from was less social media, less overall media. And, back in the day when I was playing, I was able to, a lot of times I never read the newspapers. I never really listened to the radio too much. But in today's world, it's in front of your face nonstop, and so it's very difficult for current day players to really get away from it and kind of flush it out. And that's why, you know, I think at times we see players tend to react on social media because it's just constant, constant, constant. But the one thing that they've got to understand is you don't necessarily have to engage in it. You don't necessarily have to read it. You can force your way out of that stuff. And once you learn how to do that and put that out of your mind and just focus on your job, you'll get over it. You'll get over it and be ready for the next challenge.
Now, it hurts my heart that you never read any of the good newspaper stories that I wrote about you. None of the bad ones either, though. So I guess we're even.
I read them. I read them all now in my retirement. I've gotten all of them. But that was the thing. That was one of the things that Andy Reid taught us was like, you know, hey, if you listen to the media too much, you know, when things are really good, they'll be up here. When things are bad, down here. He's like, you always want to stay even keel. And the way you do that is as much as you can. Now, I still did a little bit of media and listen and stuff, but if I had a bad game, I definitely wasn't going and making sure I read everything.
You were smart off for it. Let's talk about what you talked about winnable games and that idea. I mean, there was at one point a time where people looked at the schedule and said, oh, we're through the tough part. Maybe the Eagles can run the table. What did we learn about the Eagles and their loss to the Giants from an overall big picture standpoint?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we learned is nothing's a given. I think this team, it's still obviously it's still a long work in progress, and I still think they're still trying to find their way. And even though they had that 3 or 4 game stretch where everything was positive, especially on offense, I still think defense last few games has really put together a string of very good games, including last week. But I think offensively, I think they're still trying to find their way, and they're still trying to, I don't want to say force, but they're still trying to find out if Jalen is the guy. And so it's kind of a tough dynamic when, on the one hand, you could just go out there and do what you've been doing and be successful and win some games. But you also have to start to try to, think about the future and build for the future. And, eventually you're going to have to, find out if he can really carry a game passing wise. And so that's what I think we're at right now is the offense is really still trying to find their way, and they're really still trying to figure out what pieces work together. Like, not to be too long-winded, but to the fact that Jalen Reagor was targeted, 7 times last week, which is kind of high for him lately. It shows that maybe they're trying to, find out a number 2 there, and if it's there. So I think it's still very much a work in progress, and anything else is kind of crazy. So we're just kind of, as fans and analysts, we're just kind of along for the ride right now.
Definitely. And it's been a roller coaster ride, no doubt. I want to ask you about the challenges of facing a rookie quarterback. Not only the challenges, there's got to be upsides, and there's also got to be some challenges in that because you see the guy for the first time. So from a defensive player standpoint, talk about the Eagles going up against Zach Wilson for the first time and how they prepare for that.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see the game plan this week because he hasn't played a whole lot of football. He's a very dynamic quarterback. He can run, he can get out of the pocket, he can make all the throws. He's kind of a gunslinger type. And so I think it's going to be interesting. I definitely think he can hurt you if you aren't very smart. But he's still rookie. He's not seeing the entire field. So I'll be curious to see whether or not Gannon decides to come after him and blitz him and try some different pressures, or try to sit back in zones and make sure he doesn't escape out of the pocket and extend plays and find open guys. This is going to be an interesting one for me. I'm actually pretty excited for this one because, like I said, I mean, anything can go, anything can happen. It's a guy we haven't seen a whole lot of on tape, but he can definitely hurt you. And for me as a player, the one thing that as a secondary player that I would be the most worried about is him extending the play. You do your coverage, you drop in your coverage, you got your man. The D-line gets pressure and he gets out of the pocket. Now anything can happen. So that'll be definitely something I'll be keeping an eye on.
Did you always find as a player that it was an advantage, or that you had the upper hand, or that it was a disadvantage that there wasn't a whole lot of tape and there wasn't a lot of experience on the side of the quarterback?
I think against certain quarterbacks, I think it's an advantage if you if you're attacking blitzing style team where you can kind of dictate the pressure, you can kind of dictate the pace. I say that, but then if you go against, if you're thinking about like a young quarterback like Colin Kaepernick when he was younger, where you're anticipating putting pressure on him and he's escaping out of the pocket and running for first 20 yards down the field, then you get kind of hurt there. So I think it's kind of more of a balance thing. I hate to say that, but in the gray area, it's one of those situations where if I would personally, if I'm the defensive coordinator, I want to see what he knows and what he can see, and I'm going to come after him early. And then the best part about it is if you're coming after him early, now he's already thinking about it the second half, maybe you can change it up and try to force him into making some bad plays by coverage and changing different coverages up. So
sure.
For me personally, that's the way I would attack this.
And we have seen Jonathan Gannon lately doing a little bit more on the back end to be deceptive as opposed to maybe the first month of the season. All right, the time of reckoning is here. Give us the prediction, Q.
I feel like I'm always picking the Eagles, but this one I don't think we've ever lost to the Jets, right? I think we're 11-0, right? So I'm definitely not going to go against the Birds on that one. So I got the Eagles winning this one. I feel like we bounce back. The running game, my running game is going to have a nice little bounce back this week. I'm going to say Eagles win. I'm going to say we win 24-17. We'll win by 7 points.
24-17. All right. You know what? A W is a W, as they like to say. So yes, Eagles win. Thanks. We've been watching Q's Views as we do every week here on Inside the Birds Pregame Live. Thanks, Q.
All right.
All right, great stuff as always with former Eagles safety Quentin Michael. You can hear Quentin and Jason Avant doing the Q&A show on the Inside the Birds platforms. Their podcast drop every Thursday at 6 a.m. And my favorite part of the last one was Quentin, the defensive back, arguing with Jason, the wide receiver, on whether or not there really was pass interference on the first Rager drop down the sideline, which we were talking about earlier. Jason says a little bit. Quentin says this. What? You don't look on his face. You're an offensive player. Of course you thought there was PI.
It was a little bit. At the end of the game, you're not going to get the call, so you can't look for it. You got to make the play.
He's certainly not going to get the call.
Yeah, you're not going to go.
All right, well, you know who makes great calls? Our friends, the production team here, Public Square and Rebel Hill. They are back. The team of James and Zach are back behind the controls, bringing Inside the Birds to you in high definition with great graphics, videos, and more. Contact Public Square Media and Rebel Hill Productions to produce your webcast, podcast, live show, or anything else you can dream of. This team can bring it to life. That's right. They do an amazing job. We thank Jim and Zach for all the great production work that they do to make this show and other Inside the Birds platform shows go on. Speaking of going on, we've got the Midnight Green versus Gangrene here with the Eagles versus the Jets. We are in hour 2 of Inside the Birds pregame live. Still plenty of time to get down here to Rivers Casino and Sportsbook. Take advantage of the food specials, the drink specials, place some wagers, win some money. Join Adam and I at the watch party, which will start around kickoff, get some prizes. And again, if you come up to us and say the word Myalata, you will walk away with a prize, perhaps something signed by
teddy bear stuff.
Current or former.
Teddy bear.
We can't see it. We got some good stuff.
Teddy bear, huh? Eagles teddy bear?
So we spent some time talking about.
I don't know if you want to beat that up or squeeze it or hug it, the Eagles teddy bear.
Well, is it your teddy bear that you're giving away, or
no?
Okay,
he volunteered.
Is it fluffy? Fluffy.
No, Greg probably is. I'm not sure what that means, but anyway.
Yeah, no. You were looking for something there, and you weren't sure where to go with that.
Exactly.
We'll just leave it in its Greg's teddy
You're
bear.
very funny, as far as you know.
Let's talk about the other quarterback. We've talked about Gardner Minshew today. The Jets have a new quarterback. They seem to every few years. His name is Zach Wilson, the franchise that brought you Broadway Joe Namath, now looking for their next great one. They've gone through a lot of names.
And Richard Todd.
I was just about to say, Richard Todd,
yeah.
Ken O'Brien, Chad Pennington, Boomer Esiason, right?
Norman.
Mark Sanchez, we all know. So they've gone through quite a bit of names looking for their next Broadway Joe. It has been a tough rookie year so far for Zach Wilson out of BYU. He lost his first 3 starts. The Jets were 1-5. Then he got injured. Then, of course, Mike White came in and gave New York its football version of Linsanity for about a week or two there, where everybody said, oh, Mike White. And then he went, and then Joe Flacco. Now we're back to Zach Wilson. Overall, Wilson's got a 58% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a passer rating of 62.9. That's not so great. But Greg, we have talked about some of the improvements from the Jets. If you look at his last few games, he's not turning the ball over nearly as much as he did in the first few games. Just 3 interceptions in his last 4 starts. So even Jonathan Gannon has come out and said Wilson has looked a little bit better within the offense and now knows where to go with the football. Is that something that you've seen a little bit from him lately, knowing where to go with the football?
Well, knowing where to do and executing it are 2 different things.
Hey, baby steps here, man. It's a Jets
Right,
quarterback.
baby steps. I mean, the reason he was drafted number 2 is because he's a kid, when you just look at the traits, he's got a very loose live arm. He's an easy thrower. Ball comes out very easily. He's not a power thrower like, let's say, a Matthew Stafford, but it's live and it's loose.
Okay.
And he's got very athletic feet. He can move extremely well. His feet are light as well. So he looks the part. You know, he's just an easy moving athlete. But I've watched all of his tape as a rookie with the Jets, and he's not quite ready to play yet, but he's the number 2 pick in the draft.
Sure.
So a couple of the notes I made is, you know, and this is just from this week, but I saw all his earlier games as well. This past week, it was his first game back. He had a rough outing. And it's funny what Jason said when we were, I guess, not on camera here. He did not show a refined sense of pace and touch on his throws. His ball placement was erratic. He throws everything 100 miles an hour. He's at that stage in his career, you know, where everything is fast. You can tell from the tape that everything was happening too fast for him. His helmet was not calm. His body movements were too jumpy and frenetic.
Right.
And then I said overall, he struggled in many areas. With few exceptions, he looked like a quarterback who was not ready to start in the NFL. Everything was happening too fast. There were too many times he did not get a clear picture. So, and then every once in a while, you'll see a flash. And you go, oh, that's pretty good. But he's just not quite ready yet. And, you know, obviously he hasn't had a chance to work with the receivers.
Right. Isn't the offense that they're running, because Robert Saleh,
Well, it's Mike LaFleur.
right, it's Mike LaFleur's offense.
Yeah.
He comes from the Shanahan tree.
Yep.
Is supposed to kind of cater to a strength of a guy who can move around a little bit and throw on the run and do boots. Are they doing a lot of that, what you see in San Francisco, as far as the run game and run action and working the play?
They're trying to, but the issue with Wilson right now is he's not very disciplined in his drops and sets, so his drops and sets don't always time up with the depth of the receiver's routes.
Right.
And that will totally screw up your passing game, as you well know.
So-
So he's struggling with that right now.
You talked while we were off camera a little bit about how Donovan would throw the ball 100 miles per hour all the time, and that seemingly being a thing with Zach. How long does that usually take a guy? And then for Donovan, I feel like that never really changed.
Well, certain guys, like you just got to get used to it. I just think that if you do throw the ball 100 miles per hour, you got to be accurate.
Yep.
Right? Because if it's low and hard, it's a hard catch, hard yards after the catch. If it's high and hard, you're going to get a lot of interceptions. And that's what happens to him, is that usually he misses high. And when you miss high and hard, there's a tip ball interception, which is the easiest interception. So that's what's happened to him in his young career.
Is that because he's throwing hot? Is he anticipating pressure when it's not there, or is he feeling a lot of pressure because they don't have a great offensive line? Or what's the common thread to him throwing high?
I just think that it's a natural, like his arm is live. And there are some guys, like I played with Cam Newton in Carolina, and Cam Newton felt like he couldn't be accurate unless he threw the ball hard. Right. That's so, and so you don't want to take away what someone feels is their strength, So, but you have to become, got to bring the ball down.
Right.
And a lot of it is the lack of offensive line, but he just doesn't know. He's way over his head at this stage in his career. And that's what you see. It's a lot of checking the ball down. He doesn't see when guys are open down the field. Once or twice a game, especially his last game, you may see a good throw where it's a 15-yard, on the rope type of a throw. But by and large, is way inconsistent. He's looking at a lot. So I don't know what it is, what's the reason behind it, but it doesn't look good right now. It was not an enjoyable film study this week.
When I talked to Joe Flacco about when he came in as a rookie, he had trouble taking something off of it. It took him a while to figure out, hey, I just need to take a little bit off of it, shorten up my release. It does take time. And Zach Wilson, as Greg said, is really not ready to play, but when you're the second overall pick, you're going to play. Now, you speak of their offensive line, it's not bad. They've actually They just got Duvernay Tardif, who used to be a longtime starter for the Chiefs.
That's Dr. Tardif to you.
Yep, Dr. That's right. And
Teammate.
the crazy thing about it is, the tight end that they traded for, they traded the Chiefs cut and they got him back, Daniel Brown. They basically got him for nothing.
Sure.
So it's not bad. They actually can protect him. George Fant's the left tackle, remember the basketball player at Western Kentucky. But overall right now, the other thing that you'd like to have is a run game to help a rookie quarterback. Tevin Coleman had a decent game last week, but he's far past being a starting NFL running back. And Michael Carter's out, so you'll probably see a little bit of Ty Johnson today. You might remember him. He's an explosive runner.
Sure. The guy who I remember getting a lot of accolade going into the draft, who you knew wasn't going to go in the top 5 or 10, was Elijah Vera Tucker, who's their starting guard.
Who's their starting left guard.
Out of USC. And I remember being told by several different teams that they liked his versatility. I think he played both tackle and guard at USC.
His second to last year at USC, he was a starting guard, and then his last year he played left tackle.
Now, he was, I think, the third lineman taken behind Sewell and then Slater, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think more people saw him inside at guard than at tackle.
And they traded up for him, and I can tell you from talking to the Jets, they love him. They're so happy to have him, because the thing that you saw last year is their offensive line was not very talented. And they were starting to build it up, and that's the thing for Zach Wilson. Every quarterback needs an offensive line to protect him. The other thing they're going to have to do is invest in the run game. Michael Carter, Greg, before he got hurt.
I liked Michael Carter.
Did you think, though, he's an every down back? He could be a full-time starting running back?
My inclination would say no, but I thought that he could be a really good number 2.
Okay.
Because he's a good runner, he's a good receiver, but I didn't think he could be your foundation back.
Right. Going back to Zach Wilson, there was a report right around, I don't know, sometime before the draft.
Yeah.
You may remember, it's from Chris Mortensen.
Okay.
That I believe it was Chris Mortensen. And it went something like, it was after the Eagles traded down with Miami. And the report was couched as, now that it's very obvious the Jets are going to take Zach Wilson, the Eagles felt comfortable moving down to get extra compensation from Miami and then draft whoever they wound up drafting, which is Devontae Smith, who they traded back up to get. But it almost seemed to suggest that the Eagles may have, liked what they saw from tape out of Zach Wilson, and maybe if he had fallen to where they originally were, would have been an option for them. And do you think that they would have considered it?
Well, here's what we do know. We knew this as soon as he was drafted, that Devontae Smith was the highest graded player on their board where they picked. And I forget who else was there, but maybe it might have been a corner. They actually had Smith graded higher than the corners, which you could argue. Everyone could have their opinion.
Right.
But I think, based on what I know about Zach Wilson, he had to be the pick. But we'll never know for sure because, as you know, they traded out of there. It's kind of like, I'll give you an example, 2017. The Seahawks were enamored with Patrick Mahomes. I believe they would have gone with him had he been there, but they traded out. The Chiefs traded up, so one thing led to another, so they never got a chance to draft him. So you never know with the quarterback position who likes him, who doesn't. And the thing as you learn, as you talk to people, Mahomes was certainly a divergence of opinions. Most people are against him. Most of the teams wind up being wrong. But it's the position that most teams make the most mistakes with. It's, for whatever reason, everyone sees quarterbacks differently. I cannot understand why.
Well, and there's coaching involved too.
System-based, sure.
System coaching.
But front offices and
if
staff
Mac Jones
don't
was
agree.
playing in Jacksonville right now, he wouldn't be doing this.
You said Mac Jones?
Yeah, if he was playing in Jacksonville right now, he wouldn't be doing this.
Right. And
they
if
have
Trevor
certainly
Lawrence was in New England, probably having a better year as well.
He would
right?
be, yeah. I mean, there's a lot involved.
A lot goes into
so
it.
what people, the way coaches, I'm not talking about personnel people, because personnel people and coaches often see things totally differently.
Yes.
As you guys,
Yes.
you guys
Yeah.
know.
We all know that.
Absolutely.
We all know that.
Coaches, particularly veteran coaches, okay, guys who've been doing it a while and have had some success in the NFL, they see a quarterback through the eyes of their system, how he fits into what they want to do.
Right.
So yeah, everybody starts with traits, but the traits part is not, I don't want to say it's easy, but everybody's going to look at Zach Wilson and go, he's got a live loose arm and he's got athletic feet.
Right.
No one's going to say he's got a bad arm and he can't move.
Right.
No one's going to say that.
Everyone can see that
Everybody
part of it.
can see
agree on that.
there's a certain traits level that any evaluator can see.
Sure.
So the question becomes, how do those traits fit into a specific system?
Right. And it'll kind of be interesting to see how Wilson's career parallels with Trey Lance's, right? Because they are essentially drafted to be a quarterback in very similar offenses, and they go 2 and 3.
Right, and keep one thing in mind. it's become a pejorative negative term, but everybody is a system quarterback because that's the way it's taught.
Right.
Okay, now when people say he's a system quarterback, that automatically in most people's minds means a negative.
Yes.
But it's not a negative.
Right. As if that quarterback could not make those throws or function in an offense that was different one.
Right. Now, obviously, are there systems where the system requires more deeper intermediate and vertical throws versus maybe more shorter and short intermediate throws? Of course.
Right.
And then you have to take from that page of traits, you have to say, hey, 1 and 2 are my top traits. He can't do those things, so maybe I drop him down.
Sure.
The way I see it.
Right.
Or maybe you say, hey, those traits are right there, number 1 for me. I can plug him right into my system, and he's going to play well right off the bat.
Not that I know you don't do round grades.
No.
But when you watch Jalen Hurts' tape, and remember, the Eagles traded up for him. Now, I know you'd mentioned at his best, you're not the only person to say this. You saw some Dak Prescott in him. And Dak
What I said that he's going to be a function of how people see him and how he's coached. Is will people see him in the same way they see a Lamar Jackson type and feel like he's a runner first, and that you have to build your offense around him as a runner, which, by the way, is what Nick Sirianni has been doing the last 2 weeks? Or can you see him down the road becoming Dak Prescott?
Right.
Which
he wasn't going to be Dak.
Right, but what does that mean to you, Dak? When you say
means can he become an efficient pocket quarterback with plus accuracy and the ability to stand and deliver? Dak Prescott, and I've spoken to coaches about this, has been a model of incremental improvement each and every year to the point where now in his 5th season, he is clearly a higher level pocket player.
Right.
Okay, so the question is, if you're drafting Jalen Hurts, with coaching, with development, with other factors, maybe a good run game, maybe high-quality receivers, a good defense, other factors, can he in 3, 4, 5 years be that guy? That's a pure projection.
Sure. It is also important to point out that Dak's first year, he showed probably already a big jump from college to the pros.
Right.
I think his first 8 games, 6 passer ratings over 100.
He was good at all.
What they did with Dak
Yeah.
is, which is very interesting, is he was a pure shotgun quarterback at Mississippi State who had issues with ball placement, okay?
Right.
When he got to Dallas, they had Zeke, they had a great O-line, and they had a good defense. They put him under center, and they went with a conventional, traditional run game, and they defined everything for him. So they were not asking him to see the whole field. They were not asking him to make difficult reads and throws.
Right.
And the run game at that point was absolutely dominant.
I think Zeke averaged 108 rushing yards a year that year.
He was dominant,
per game. Absolutely. Did you want to get?
No,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hog that.
No, you're not hogging it at all. I'm learning so much from you guys.
Listen, I think you came up with the phrase of the segment, and that was it was a really painful research. Hopefully I'm sure the Jets hoping it's not as painful as for you.
Sometimes I'll say it's a tough watch.
Yeah,
Well, I know what that means. You don't need to say anything else.
Right.
I've been around you and Jaws many years, man. When you pop the tape and you go, oh, man.
Imagine how LaFleur feels. I mean, Jason's he's impartial.
Well, it's
He's
funny
just watching the
because-
tape.
Now, I'll give you a perfect example. Here's what I said about, this was before I knew who he was going to be drafted. I said, his overall skill set would transition well in a Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay type of system with the secondary action.
Wilson?
Movement ability, adding another dimension to well-schemed and well-structured passing games. The interesting question with Wilson is his tendency to play a little loose and undisciplined at times.
Sure.
We've seen that in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's
Absolutely.
too loose, he's too undisciplined. And I'm not talking just running around. I'm talking about, as I said before, even in his drops.
Right.
And you've seen this, I'm sure,
Yeah.
as you're a receiver, and you know how that, because as Jason knows better than I, but I know too, obviously, is the quarterback's drop, whether it's 3-step, 5-step, 7-step, there's all a timing to that.
Sure.
The route concepts have to time up with that.
Yeah, it's got to be nice.
Gotta be,
Nice
gotta
little
be on
marriage.
time. Yeah, marriage, yeah.
All right, well, all this raises the question about what the Eagles do today when they try to attack Zach Wilson. Is it blitz? Is it coverage? Is it disguise? They do have a little bit of an advantage in that they have already seen and practiced against Zach Wilson from the joint practices
That's right,
in the training camp. And some of the Eagles talked about having that knowledge already under their belts from the training camp. Avonte Maddox is someone who this week kind of talked about the, not the challenge of facing Zach Wilson, but what you get when you face him. So let's hear from the Eagles slot corner right now on facing Zach Wilson.
I mean, you got a young quarterback there. I mean, you just got to make sure you have good disguising and things like that. Because I mean, he's capable of playing the game and making the throws and things like that. But you get him off guard when you got a good disguise and things, and he can't process it as fast. And hopefully that's when the time he's able to make the mistakes and you're able to capitalize on them.
You saw him this past summer in a scrimmage. Is it different now after looking at some tape, this week of him? I know he missed some time with injury.
Yeah, he missed some time with injury, so he's still developing. He in that back in camp, we had went up against him, and he was good. I mean, he was making throws as well. You see he's capable of making the throws, and you watch the film, and he scrambles and he's letting it go, deep, and the guys are just running. So like I said earlier, just a minute ago, you just got to make sure you get him off guard, disguise him a lot, and then that's where he starts to not read it as well maybe, and then you just hopefully make a mistake and we can capitalize.
All right, that was Eagles slot cornerback Avonte Maddox, fresh off a nice contract and a pretty decent game last week. You heard Maddox talk about two things: Wilson's ability to improv, which we've talked about, which they saw in camp, and of course the Eagles need to maybe disguise and deceive on the back end. But before we get into that, we got a little delivery coming of our own right here.
Man. What's up, Ron?
No B-Doc jersey today, Ron.
I had to send it to the laundry.
They did run the ball like you said last week, but they didn't win.
They did not.
Thanks, man.
They didn't run it enough, huh, Ron?
Still reeling from that loss.
Yeah, it
Thanks,
was a
Ron.
tough one.
We got a chance to redeem ourselves today.
All right. So, Ron, before we let you get out of here, and this is Ron, a great bartender at Jack's Bar and Grill here at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook. Ron, tell us who's going to win today.
So we got to go with the Eagles, right? We got to redeem ourselves.
Okay.
I think regardless of who our quarterback is, we should be able to take care
Well,
of these guys.
speaking of, Hurts is officially inactive. Jordan Howard, Kerry Vincent,
Minshew.
Tay Gowan, Mac McCain, and Marlon Tulick below two. So they're your inactives, as we expected. You and I thought yesterday when we were talking, Hurts would probably be inactive because of the information you had about his ankle,
Right.
his foot, and his heel. So
Definitely.
he is officially inactive. Reed Sinnett will be the number 2 quarterback, and that's that.
Ron, we expect to see you in a Minshew jersey next week. All right, bro?
Do you have one?
Yeah. Minshew Mania comes to Philadelphia.
Do they have them?
They do.
They
Thanks,
will
man. Appreciate
after
it.
this game.
Come out to Jack's Bar and Grill.
All right,
Here at Rivers.
real quick before we get to what Maddox says, that means with Jalen Hurts being inactive, that Reed Sinnett, remember him? Everybody remember Reed Sinnett, right? Of course,
The
Reed,
immortal.
household name.
Yeah.
Reed Sinnett is the backup quarterback today for the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe the Eagles had gotten him from Miami's practice
waivers.
squad.
Off
Off
waivers.
waivers, right. So pray for good health for Gardner Minshew today, or else this game's really going to go off the rails.
We'll run it 80 times.
Exactly.
probably
So
could.
again, you heard Maddox talk about Wilson's ability to get in and out of the pocket and the need to disguise and deceive on the back end. Hey, Jason, the Eagles have been doing a little bit more of that in the last few weeks. I know as opposed to the first 5 or 6 weeks where it was just a very soft zone that you were critical of, but
Yeah.
they are showing some movement on the back end. I mean, how much do you think that that's been, part of what they do in their success lately?
It's been good. We've seen teams do a lot more, but they've been good. The thing is just the mentality change for the Eagles, and I think it started with the Broncos game, where they were in people's face a lot and challenging, and I think the Eagles are doing that, and they're having some success at it. To hold the Giants team to 13, and at some point I was watching the game, I was like, we should be down 28 points.
Right.
How bad we were playing offensively. So I think that some disguise is helping, but the mentality of Jonathan Gannon has definitely had a positive effect on the team.
And Greg, more man coverage at times we're seeing, which is another thing we did not see a lot of in the first 5 or 6 weeks. Dime packages, things like that. I mean,
Sure.
they're obviously a more diversified defense.
No
now.
question.
Yeah.
And I think he was figuring out his players and what their strengths and weaknesses were, or limitations, I should say. And because I haven't met Jonathan Gannon, but from my understanding, he's a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah.
And someone told me that he's way too smart not to learn as he goes. Don't forget, it's his first year as a coordinator.
Yep.
So he's learning as he's going, and he's finding out what guys can do and what they don't do as well, and he's starting to play to that.
Right.
So Jeff, what I was going to say is, and you just alluded to it, their man coverage numbers, percentage-wise per game, are going way up.
Yeah.
Because remember, they were in the 90% after the first 4 or 5 weeks.
Zone.
90%
Right,
zone,
zone.
yeah.
Now they're somewhere man coverage over the last 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. 30% more.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a lot
big
for
number.
them. That's a
big
lot for
number.
them, which tells you, I think Greg was alluding to it, he has more confidence with his players and he understands them better. And here's the question, though. we were all talking about it. Do you bring the house? Do you play more? You would spread it up.
Yeah.
Do you play more coverage? To me, I'm going to up my blitz percentage. But and Greg just talked about it. A guy, and you've seen his tape.
Well,
a guy's not really ready to play. You want to make it hard for him.
Right, but I also think, and Jason could address this too, I think you got to be careful about just saying let's blitz more, because I don't know if they have good blitzers.
I've heard that from somebody before.
That's the other factor. Don't you agree?
You got to have a really good blitzer.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say let's blitz.
But I think TJ can do it.
You know, yeah, maybe. And I think Mannix can blitz off the slot in certain, you know.
We did see that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's a package that everybody has in their playbook. It's a Mike Star blitz. It's a middle linebacker, and the star's the slot.
Right.
Everybody has a Mike Star blitz. It's it's blitz 101 stuff.
Sure.
You can do that. You try to show that, make it look different. But normally when you blitz, unless you're doing it with dime, you're normally linebackers are involved.
Right.
So I don't know.
Singleton,
Yeah, I don't know how they feel about their linebackers as blitzers.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Giants last week, I think there were some times where they blitzed Robinson out of the slot, and they blitzed McKinney a few times,
Yeah.
and they looked like they had a nose for how to get to the football. I remember
McKinney did that in college.
That's
at
exactly what I was
Alabama.
going to get to. I remember they had to. I think they sent Steven Nelson a couple of weeks ago on a blitz, and he never even came within a sniff of the
Yeah, I
quarterback.
mean,
and I don't know how often he's done that.
This is stuff that it's a nuance to the game. It's easy to say let's blitz. That's easy.
Right.
But you got to be good at it.
And it's how you do it.
And then it's what coverage are you playing behind it.
Right.
Because you have zone pressures, which require usually players from the inside to match routes. Even though it's called a zone pressure, you're matching routes.
Sure.
Okay? And you're normally doing that from the inside.
Right.
Or you can have man pressures where you're playing man-to-man behind it.
By the way, 2019, remember that game? Eagles-Jets at Link? The immortal
Luke Falk game.
Luke Falk game.
Oh, yes.
He started for the Jets. And Jim Schwartz, who was not a big fan of the blitz, we all know that, he came after. I mean, what was the blitz percentage?
It was
that day?
under 50%, but it was the highest of any team that season.
Right.
It was something like we've never seen before, and he wouldn't stop. To the point where you felt so bad for Luke Falk.
Who was a client of good friends of ours.
Yes.
And then they called me about him, and I don't think they liked my answer.
Well, he got sacked 9 times. He got sacked 9 times. Trivia question, can you name the other guy who got sacked, who came in for 2 plays and got sacked on one of them?
Trevor Siemian, wasn't it? No.
No.
But he was with the Jets at one point there.
David Fales. He got sacked too. He joined the sack
It
party.
was a total hit parade. There
San
were
Jose
16,
State, I believe.
Yeah, 16 quarterback hits, 11 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions, and 2 defensive touchdowns.
Oh.
Man, Orlando Scandrick had two sacks in that game.
I
That's
remember.
all you
Aaron
did.
had one of the
touchdown.
touchdowns. Who had the other one?
I believe it was Nate Gary. Nate Gary picked him
immortal
off,
Nate
had a
Gary.
touchdown.
Was he out of football?
He was with the
He got
Niners on their
hurt?
practice squad, right? Then
He
got
was with
hurt?
the Niners. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
what
know.
he's doing. Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure. I'll say this about Jonathan Gannon. Late in that game, Adam talked about it before. We talked about Kitchens throwing it on first and second down. Late in that game, we got so predictable, and that's how they were able to move the ball in that last game, the last drive, in order to set up that field goal in order to extend the lead. Was we got too predictable on first and second down, where we were heavy zone. They were starting to throw or do some play action off of it, and it kind of caught us off balance.
Okay. Man, John Gannon can't catch a break from you.
Hey, I like him. I'm just saying, it's been way better. I'm just saying, like you got to know your tendencies. If I'm looking at it and seeing your tendencies,
Gotcha.
you have to know them too.
Speaking of can't catch a break, tough crowd from the YouTube audience. Andrew Youssef says Greg Cosell is dressed like he's in The Departed. You getting whacked at the end of the show, Greg?
I sure hope not.
Which character in The Departed?
I think he's giving a dissertation with
Maybe I'm doing the whacking. You never know.
Everybody watch their backs when this show is done.
I might be a button man.
LT says, is John Gannon off the hot seat? Well, according to Jason Avant, no. He's still got to show you
Three-quarters
something,
off
right?
of it? Huh? 3/4 off the hot seat? Or do you think?
You know, he's I can't say when you hold a team to 13 points in the National Football League,
You should win.
it's a win.
Yeah.
It's a win,
go.
and that's so their
question.
position, their side of the ball play well enough to win.
Ernest Wallace wants to know, should the Eagles pass more in general, just to see if the coaches can call up good plays with a different quarterback, and then hide maybe some of the deficiencies you would see with the wide receivers and the passing game not being as crisp? Which I don't know how you would hide that if you're passing.
No, but
more.
it's you were talking about it earlier. He's
Oh
working.
no, I'm sorry. He asked, or do you to continue to run So do you pass more or run more today?
Absolutely should still keep that as your foundation.
Okay.
Plus, and this is what I was going to get to, Minshew has not played with this group. He hasn't played football in a long time as a starting quarterback. You're putting him in a tough position here where he hasn't worked with these guys, as you were saying earlier. I don't think you want him throwing the ball 40 times today.
Right.
I think you do have to start with a run game, but as you were talking about before, play action. And then if you get him into a rhythm, maybe up the throwing percentage, but I don't think you come out throwing today. That would really surprise me.
The other factor, too, is my guess is you're going to go into this game believing that the Jets are not putting up 30.
That too, sure. You don't feel the pressure to call out a
right.
pass.
So I don't think you're going to come out. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to take a first down play action shot here and there, but I don't think you're going into this game with the idea that we're throwing it 40 times by choice.
I need to get a T-shirt that says "Bring running back to the NFL,"
right.
because I don't know
Some
where.
teams are doing that more. By the way.
Yeah, they're doing it more. But we just get in the mentality that you have to throw the ball so much because we're fans and we like to see the high-scoring games, and we like to see the star power of Brady and Mahomes and Rodgers, but. It's about winning football games. Do what's best that suits your team. And I think our team, what best suits our team in the offensive line is running the ball. So do that. And we do that well. Let's keep doing it.
Right. Why would you go away from what you do best?
Yeah.
Right? And they're absolutely dominant. Did you guys think last week their line was dominant as well against the Giants?
I thought they played well.
And the Jets are one of the poorest run defenses in the NFL.
And with injuries.
Yeah. Right. All right. In about 15 minutes, we'll be giving our score predictions for this game. But if you're watching at home right now on YouTube, go ahead, leave it in the box. Let us know. We went through the score predictions last week. There were a lot of, oh man, what we really should do is go back and look at those score. No, James like, no, we really shouldn't. But there were, we were all off. I mean, we all lost. We all thought the Giants were going to lose to the Eagles.
We agree. It's either we're all wrong or all right. Were you at the center one time?
There was
you
once,
against the grain?
and I won it.
Okay,
I forget who it was that everybody thought the Eagles were going to win, and I picked them to lose. And
I did early in their season, too.
Yeah, it was earlier in the season.
Who did you have against Denver? Was that the one where you got it right?
No, I picked the Eagles in that game, I believe. Oh, no, I did get that one wrong. I picked Denver. But I got the San Francisco game right, and everybody else picked, I think, the Eagles to win that. So it evened out. All right, there we go. All right, so again, leave your score predictions, and we'll read them off here during the show. We've talked about passing the ball a little bit, and obviously the biggest threats for the Eagles' defense are the Jets' wide receivers, who are pretty good. If Corey Davis plays today, he's a tough matchup, depending on how injured he is or how much he can go. They've got Jamison Crowder, the reliable slot receiver, a guy who I always joke catches about 10 passes a game for about 90 yards, but he knows how to get open and catch balls. And, of course, the rookie Elijah Moore, who they drafted out of Ole Miss, second-round pick. That's three pretty good wide receivers there.
Corey Davis is active, by the way.
Corey Davis is active.
Yes.
All right, well, that changes.
Groin injury,
changes the game a little bit. Crowder's got 38 catches. He's averaging just 8.2 yards per catch, but Moore leads the team with 65 targets. He had a 62-yard touchdown a couple weeks ago
from
against
Joe Flacco.
the Dolphins. From Joe Flacco.
He's been
electric.
3 touchdowns, 0
Let's talk about Moore. He's a tough matchup.
Oh, I like Moore a lot. I love his college tape. He's short but not small. He's physical. He's competitive. He plays through contact.
Right.
He's got a lot of juice to him. I liked him more than Kadarius Toney coming out. He wasn't drafted. Toney was drafted before Moore. I think Moore can line up anywhere in your formation, including the backfield.
He is.
Yep.
You can use him on jet sweeps. I think he's a really good prospect, and I think he's been improving as the years gone on.
Just one thing I'll add to that. They do not see him as a replacement for Crowder. They see him playing everywhere, as Greg was alluding to. Because I know a lot of people thought he was drafted to take Crowder's job. He was on the final year of his deal. They see him as an all-around X.
Yeah, he's a lot more explosive, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He had an amazing training camp, and then he got hurt. They are so happy with this player. But as Greg said, he is a little smaller. He doesn't play small.
5'9.5", 178.
That's you're not going to get drafted in the first round unless you're Deshaun Jackson.
He looks bigger as built, you know. Okay. Just don't you agree? He looks.
Yeah, he looks better.
He looks bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like him as a player. I do. You just wonder, like, if there's no Corey Davis now.
He's playing.
Well, he is playing.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying he's active now,
limited,
but if it wasn't, you're going to see a lot of Braxton Berrios and different guys like that.
Is he a slot guy, Braxton Berrios?
He's more of a slot guy. He's a smaller guy. That's the guy they want to replace, I guess, Crowder.
Where's Denzel Mims in all this?
He's active.
Yeah.
He's active, but he was out with COVID for a while, so I don't know how healthy he's going to be. But I think that Corey playing changes the dynamic of the game in more than what. If you think about how much more man they've been playing recently, right? You've got Jamison Crowder in the slots. You know that when they're in man, that's going to be Maddox's guy. Darius Slay, you would think, is going to be, I would have thought,
Well,
Elijah
he plays
Moore.
left corner. They don't normally
Right, they
match up.
They don't do
match
sides,
up.
right? They
But
play,
the
when they
point
play
is-
man, they stay the
The
same.
point is the Jets can put either Moore on Darius Slay's side and then match up Davis against Steven Nelson, which I would say is a favorable matchup for the Jets, or do the opposite and have Moore against Steven Nelson, which I would say is still a favorable matchup for the Jets. If we were talking about no Corey Davis and then Barrios or
that would be the Eagles' advantage.
or who's their other shot play guy? They have a shot
But
play.
this kid, Jeff Smith, they
Jeff
rarely
Smith
throw
guy,
to him. When
right.
they do, it's usually downfield.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that changes it a
I'm
lot
curious
now.
to see how much Mims plays because he's a big kid who's tape I like coming out of college. I guess he didn't get off to a good start with the new coaching staff.
Correct. He was buried on the depth
He
chart.
was buried on the depth chart.
And he talked crap about Philadelphia.
Oh, he
when
did.
was
Oh,
there.
on our show.
By the way, on our
On our
show,
show.
it was the first time he ever did it.
Really?
We
It was
had
up
him
from
on
our
prior
show.
to the
Yeah.
draft. Yeah.
We didn't know he was going to say what he said. And
What did he say?
Well, he played at Baylor, right?
Baylor.
And so Matt Rule was the coach at the time. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it was a game, but he took the team to Philadelphia. And he being Denzel Mims, said that he did not enjoy his experience in Philadelphia. And asked to elaborate, I think he said it again in a different press conference. He just he didn't have a bad, anything other than I just didn't like that city. It was kind of grimy and, he
it was not complimentary, and it didn't go
It's
over
almost
well.
as if he had never been to a city
Big,
before.
big
I mean,
surprise that it didn't go over well.
Yeah. We didn't know he was going to say what he said, and oh boy, here we
Yeah,
go.
it did not go over well. So, needless to say, he winds up in New York, New Jersey area,
Yeah.
which is
But
really
he
not
is
that big of a
active
difference.
today, and now, as you said, Jeff, they've got two big receivers, Davis
Right.
and Mims, the explosive guy and Moore. Crowder's a slot. They've got guys.
They've got weapons.
They don't use the tight ends at all.
So the matchup is sort of Steve Nelson versus in this
He's a
conversation.
smaller corner, by the way.
Smaller corner and also not a fast
Right,
guy. I
right.
mean, if
Mims
Elijah
is
Moore is
6'2", Davis is 6'3".
This is an interesting match. Now we'll see how deep. I'll be interested to see what their approach is. Do they spread them Eagles out? Do they go with more 11 than they normally would?
They've been trying to run the ball a lot lately.
Yeah.
They've been trying, and I think it's to the detriment of their, because they don't run the ball extremely well, but they've been trying to stick with the run game the Jets have, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Where would you, if you were put your offensive coordinator hat on, you know the Eagles personnel, you know that Steven has struggled at times. You talked about the Denver game where he kind of got away with his struggles because Bridgewater was not able to get the full. Yeah, it happens sometimes. Yeah. I mean, are you looking to put a shorter, faster, twitchier guy up on him like Moore or Corey Davis, or are you just trying to hit him with both and see?
So a lot of times, if you got a guy that you feel you can get open on, you just want to throw most of your targets there, whether it's fast or small or whatever you have. You just say, okay, this guy we can get open on, we can call routes on this guy, and you stick to him. You call your route plays and all your shot plays. Whatever you're doing, your third downs, you call it on Steven Nelson. That's what, if I was offense coordinator, that's what I would, try my best to do.
Sure.
And also Avonte Maddox in coverage, continue to test him. He showed up well, especially with the big third down stop at the end of the game to give the Eagles another chance offensively. Those are the guys that you want to challenge. You just don't want to continue to challenge Slay because Slay's been playing extremely well.
Exactly.
So do everything that you can to avoid him, but safeties, linebackers, everyone else is free game for the Eagles.
All right, I think that's the big matchup to watch today. Steven Nelson versus the wide receivers that are lined up opposite him. Let's see. We got some scores here on YouTube. Kenzo Rome says 37-13 Birds. Carl Stevenson, 24-13 Eagles.
That's my score.
Owen Egan 10, 27-13 Eagles. Matt Hatter, 13-9 New York Jets. Oh, Matt Hatter going against the grain. And then, of course, very Mindy of you says 38-16 Eagles. Paul Mancini, Eagles 30, Jets 16. I'm trying to see if there's any other Jets. No, Matt Hatter stands by himself as going with the Jets today. Check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of Philadelphia's sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. You can check out all their great coverage and content at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. All right, we'll get to our predictions soon. Real quick, though, I just wanted to note that the Eagles' defensive line has been playing well lately, and Fletcher Cox seems to be a little bit more invested, or whether you want to say used correctly. I don't know if that he's lining up any differently, but he had a big tackle for a loss last week. Still has one sack. You've got Javon Hargrave, who finally got a sack after a little bit of a dry spell there. So he's got 7 sacks, 13 quarterback hits, and 8 tackles for a loss. These are the guys that they're the strong.
That's the guy.
Really well.
Derek Barnett played well last week, too. Just give him some credit. We always
Barnett played really well
last week.
It might be blasphemous to say that, but he actually played well. By the fans are on Barnett. No, Milton Williams has been the story.
He's been playing really well.
I'm so fascinated to see what happens with him over time because I get he was a 3rd rounder, and he didn't play at a school in a conference that's big time.
Which is not a Power 5 school.
But his tape has been so good lately.
It has.
You wonder what his role will be whether Fletcher Cox is traded, whatever happens with him over the next couple of years. Because I do wonder, guys, could he be a starter? I know we're projecting here, but his tape, from what I understand, has been so dynamic.
I think they see him as a starter down the road.
You think?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. A 3rd rounder.
I mean, a 3rd rounder is never.
They're not
a
always
short
drafted
shot.
to be starters.
Well, 3rd rounders sometimes,
Sometimes not.
You want them to be.
Yeah. And D-line is a little different in the sense that you can be part of a rotation and still play 40 snaps a game. But no, they definitely see
he is
him now.
explosive.
I mean, they rotate so much that even if he's not, to Adam's point, even if he's not a starter, he's
in there a lot.
You could definitely see the Eagles. First of all, Javon Hargrave's coming up on the final year of his deal next year. So they're not going to want him to get to the end of the deal, then have to restructure. They're probably going to want to renegotiate at the end of this year.
They may be talking now.
And they might be. And that's going to make it difficult for Fletcher and his high price tag to stay. All right? So that means either Milton Williams could eventually move in. The Eagles also have a lot of picks, and defensive line is an area, tackle and end, where they put a lot of high draft picks. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if they drafted a defensive tackle high, 1st or 2nd round, with any of those 4 or 5 picks they're going to have. And by the way, as our production team noted, today's the day that Carson Wentz should reach 75% snaps, and that will convert to a 1st-round pick for the Eagles. So my only point is, I think Williams can play well into a starting role, but it wouldn't shock me if he was a highly used rotational player, pass rusher, occasional D-end against the run.
Yes. Because he's done that.
Yeah, but I mean, Josh Sweat was for 3 years before he finally became a starter.
The issue teams had with him was the shorter arms.
Right.
Because they felt like, if you're going to keep this guy in 50 snaps a game, 60 snaps a game, it's going to be a problem over time. Maybe if he's 35%, or 35 snaps. But the bottom line is, man, this guy brings it. Great energy. Greg, what do you guys both see from Milton Williams?
I like him a lot. I think he flashes almost every week now. And he flashes both as a pass rusher and a run defender.
Right.
He's quick.
He's playing end-to-end tackle.
Well, yeah. I mean, he hasn't really played wide 9 as a pass rusher, but because of their fronts, yes, could you call him a D-end?
Yeah.
At times, but he's really played inside.
Inside, right.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see his growth and development because I remember in the preseason we were scared.
Right.
Everyone was scared because when the stars weren't in, they were giving up. They were giving up a lot of yards, and it's because of our vanilla style defense that we were playing.
Yep.
But he's definitely taken on the reins.
So
and,
if you
and,
look,
and
I mean,
it's not
you'd have to say right now, what would your general consensus be of Devonta Smith?
Pretty good. Solid
player.
rookie.
Okay. What's your consensus of Landon Dickerson?
Solid.
Pretty good. Yep.
Very good.
Milton Williams.
Very good.
It's a good draft. It's looking like a good draft right now.
Yeah.
We don't know about McPherson yet. He's not really playing.
Right.
Defense.
Correct.
But I don't
He was a
think
fourth
he was
rounder.
drafted to be a starter this year.
No. Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then who was drafted?
Then you've got the Milton Tuipulotus, you've got the Teron Jacksons, the
Who, by the way, gets
Stevens.
playing. Say what you want, and I haven't studied him enough individually to have an opinion about him. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
But he plays snaps.
Who's that?
Tyron Jackson.
Oh, Teron Jackson,
Yeah.
yes.
He plays
Yes.
snaps.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
on
he's
the
an
field.
active player playing snaps. Have you looked at him much?
by force.
I agree. I'm not saying they wanted him to.
Yeah.
Have you looked at him that much at all?
Yeah, but it's not really much there.
I would agree. I mean, I haven't studied him enough. He doesn't flash, but I mean, I can't tell you if he's, because I'm not grading him on every play. I can't tell you how he's being graded, but he plays snaps.
Yeah. It's interesting. We saw Patrick Johnson earlier in the year kind of rotating with Jannard Avery as we
and now
say.
he doesn't really
Gannon
play.
was in that kind of curiosity mode, and now you're seeing mostly Jannard Avery when they play that five-man fly. Yeah. All right, it's time to do what we do worst. Start making some predictions. Of course, if you want to get an advantage over your sports book, you got to download BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. They got a best bet computer model that scans over 350,000 unique bets a year. That gives you a best bet recommendation across all major sports. They also give you the reason why you should place the bet. Their model covers spreads, over-unders, player prop bets, everything. If you don't want to use the model, you like to do research, BetQL's got the necessary tools for your research needs, from sharp data to line movement, team summaries, lineup injury, breaking news, even the leaderboards to track your success. So go to the App Store or Google Play Store now. Download BetQL. You can also go to the website try.betql.co/ITB and enter the discount code ITB at payment checkout for 25% off their subscription offerings. So that's our friends at BetQL to get an advantage over your sportsbook. Let's get to our player of the game predictions. Jason, you had one, then you changed it. I don't know if that's because of the quarterback thing, but
I think that Zach. I'm picking 2 players.
Trey used to pick the entire offensive line.
Yeah,
So,
pretty much every week.
I can't remember my score. What's my score? 24-17.
Well, we're not getting to the scores.
We're not there.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah. So before,
I got more reads for that.
So yeah, sorry about that. I would say Devontae Smith because I remember him playing really well against the Jets, preseason-wise, as far as practicing. And I think
he was awesome. I was there.
He was awesome. He was awesome. He played really well. And I think this group, their deficiency on defense has to be their corners in their second half and their rest of their secondary safety. So I think Devontae Smith have a good game. But I'm also inclined to say T.J. Edwards because of Zach Wilson.
Okay.
And his ability to get some balls tipped and how hard he throws the ball and all those things, I think it's going to end up in TJ's hands today for some reason. That's just me.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
I like that observation. All right, a little logic behind that one. Very good. All right, Greg, who's going to be the player of the game?
I think I picked Devontae Smith, didn't I?
You did, and then Jason went and stole it from me after T.J. Edwards. But that's okay. You can all agree.
I didn't see yours, though.
No, I didn't see yours.
You like the matchups?
You know, well, it's funny because I actually think that 2 of the Jets corners are not bad. I actually think their left corner, Bryce Hall, who actually looks the part and probably would have been a 2nd or 3rd round pick out of Virginia if he didn't tear, I believe, his ACL.
Yeah.
I think he's not a bad player with a pretty good upside.
Right.
And I actually really like their slot corner. I think he'll be a good player.
The other Michael Carter.
Mike Carter.
He's a rookie from Duke, and I think he's an intriguing player. Now, I'm not saying these guys are great.
Soft, though. I like him as a cover guy, but he's soft in the run game.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I would agree with that. But I still think that there's going to be a more rhythmic feel to their pass game, and I think Smith is going to get targets today. I think if he gets targets, he's going to get catches.
All right, Adam, who is the player of the game today?
I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert, who now, when I turned my picks in Friday, I did it with the belief that Gardner Minshew will be the quarterback, short to intermediate area. That's where Dallas Goedert will excel today. And also the Jets are another team that does not cover tight ends well. So this favors Minshew going to 88 Goddard.
All right, my player of the game, I like to go defense. I've been going defense more just because usually people go offense. But I'm going to go with Derek Barnett. Based on what we've been talking about, playing a lot better. Mekhi Becton's still not back for the Jets yet, so they're on their backup left tackle.
George
and as we get closer to the offseason, where the money starts to enter people's minds, and Derek knows that he's going to probably be a free agent, not get an extension.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, his play has really picked up, and we're seeing less penalties as well. But no, he is a good pass rusher. I'm not going to take that away from him. So
And Fan has a lot of bad snaps during a game.
Yeah, I think Fant's a good matchup for Derek.
There you go. Good call.
So I'm going to
see
Derek Barnett today, a couple sacks, maybe a forced fumble.
Nice.
All right. Now the game prediction. Now this is fascinating because when I finish the script here, the Eagles on the BetRivers.com or the BetRivers app. The Eagles were only favored by 6. The Eagles were favored by 6.5. It is down as we look right now to 5.5, and the over/under changed from 45 to 44. So clearly, the change in quarterbacks has either the money going in differently or people thinking differently about the game. By the way, as we talked about Rivers, Sundays are made for football here at Rivers Casino in Philadelphia. Every Sunday from now until the end of the season, you can enjoy $7 food specials right here in Jack's Bar and Grill. You can get half-price gourmet burgers at Hugo's Chop House. You got drink specials, you got more, and not only that, but when the Eagles score, you score when you're actively planning with your Rush Rewards card in their Bird's Nest pit in front of the sportsbook. So remember, you can be a winner at Rivers Casino Philadelphia, where Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Funny story. So as we walk into the casino, the car dealers are wearing Eagles jerseys. I saw, let me see, a T.O. jersey.
Oh, guys, nice.
The older 81. I saw a Wentz jersey, of course. And I'm not sure, it must be a throwback. I might have seen a Roman Gabriel jersey, which would have been number 5, for those of us who are old enough to remember Roman Gabriel.
I am.
Yeah, so am I.
Because I'm old.
You are.
Greg was
I'm just backing you up what you said.
Greg was in his 50s when Roman Gabriel was quarterback.
Number 5.
All right, so again, Eagles are now 5.5-point favorites with an over-under of 44 on the Bet Rivers app. Let's get the picks. Greg, actually, Jason, I will start with you. Who's winning this game?
24-17 Birds.
24-17 Birds. So you see kind of a close game then.
Yeah, I
right.
definitely see the close.
A little tight, going into the fourth quarter and then late touchdown wins it. Okay, sounds good to me. Greg, how do you see this game going?
I know I picked the Birds. I cannot remember my score.
27-20.
27-20.
So we're
Same as scores, Jason?
Yeah, we're right in the ballpark. Yeah.
Decent amount of points.
You are there. Adam, who wins today?
I've got a 24-13 Eagles. I believe in Jonathan Gannon in that he will know and understand what he needs to do today, make it tough on Zach Wilson. I see the Eagles' defense, which is the healthier part of the football team, getting some turnovers, saying some sacks, and they will help win the ball game today.
All right, I have the Eagles also winning 24-16. That makes it a show sweep. Our man Quentin Michael also picked the Eagles to win as well, so that's 5 on the side, and that didn't work for us well last week, but we'll see if the Eagles bounce back this week. Remember, before you put your money down on the Bet Rivers app or here at Rivers Casino Philadelphia, get all the statistics and trends and data at BetQL, and if you use BetQL's model, they got Devontae Smith having 6 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown. So
Adjust your
obviously,
fantasy.
you guys are lockstep with BetQL. All right, big thanks to Rivers Casino and Sportsbook, Sky Motorcars, BetQL, the teams at Rebel Hill and Public Square. Make sure you catch the Inside the Birds podcast. It'll drop 6 a.m. Monday. Check out our coverage of the game on InsideTheBirds.com immediately after. Enjoy the bye week. We won't be back for another 2 weeks. Try not to miss us too much. Have a great show, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.